Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 127 of FPL BlackBox. My name is Az. It's absolute chaos. It was chaos last week. It's even more chaos this week. Mark and I have brought in the man to solve all of our problems. It's Mr. Andy Mode. How are you, Andy?
When does he arrive?
Yeah, Luke couldn't make it, so
I was surprised. Yeah.
how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, you seem to already get me in on the chaos weeks. I think I came in last time when you were wildcarding, and that was, just a really lovely stream where me and Mark really supported you. And obviously now you brought me in where you might be thinking about wildcarding again. So lovely.
I know, I don't really like this. At least I haven't pulled the trigger this time. So when you slate it, at least I can kind of back down from it. But I am on the edge. I'm really thinking about it, and I'm seeing all these posts on Twitter which are like, you shouldn't be doing it this week. Just take a -8. It's going to be better times. It's like rubbish. You can set yourself up pretty nicely this week, and I'm gonna.
Yeah, but as when I said to you, look, I've got the chip strategy slide, and I said, have you looked forward to when you would otherwise play the wildcard? You said no, I haven't thought about it. So,
Mark, if your house is on fire, you put the fire out. You don't wait for a flood.
Which
6 weeks later?
Several.
Oh, here we go. Memberships are doing well these days.
I'm only playing up to it. I don't mean that, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I can't. Well, we need to look at your team, don't we? We need to look at what you consider to be this car crash of a team before we.
It's pretty bad.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it's pretty bad, and then Andy said, well, we've all got the same problem. And you said something like, oh, yeah, my team's very similar to yours. So you think your team is wildcardable, yet very similar to Andy's.
He said, wildcarding? Isn't your team similar to mine? I went, yeah, it's awful.
And then there was a silence for about 10 seconds while we
I mean, already people are saying, don't wildcard as is wildcarding.
Yeah,
I haven't done it yet. I'm just thinking about it. But hi to everyone in the chat. I will be showing you the wildcard, Johnny Tingate, don't worry. And you can all give your thoughts on it. That's going to come a bit later on in the stream. This is a bit of a kind of a weird stream because obviously we did the main show last week as well, so we've covered most of the team and player data. But we've got a few new screens to show. Obviously we've got new injuries like Trent to talk about and things like that. But let's make it a kind of an interactive show. If we'll get your questions in, super chats, all that, we can answer as many.
When you say interactive, you mean chaotic and unplanned. Basically what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's always a disclaimer. There's always a little disclaimer. Yeah. Why is that shouting? That's better than normal when no one can hear me or no one can hear you, Mark. So too loud is.
It's normally me shouting.
It's fine.
Me too loud.
Mr. G93, are you sure you haven't activated it? Very funny. Very funny. Right, Andy, we need to talk about your game week first of all. Mark and I have done ours. Couldn't let you on without discussing. Your 18 points on the bench. Well, actually, not your 18. Sorry, not your 18 points on the bench. You have 32 points on the bench. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I had quite a few points on the bench. For some reason, I've lost all resolution on the screen, so I'm struggling to see the things.
I thought you were going to say I've lost all memory of my game week.
Yeah, should have done. Yeah, I had quite a lot to drink that night. No, so Areola in goal. My whole midfield returned. Saka with 7, Richarlison with 8, Salah with 16, Son with 9. Alvarez captain with 14. Any other week, I'd be really happy, but obviously Palmer got 18. The problem was, and I said this on Scoutcast on Monday, this was my transition week where I had 8 good attackers because obviously I knew Son and Salah were going and I wanted Alvarez. So I had 8 good attackers and I needed to bench one. And I ended up benching Palmer. It was between him and Richarlison who I benched. And obviously I benched Palmer. It cost me 10 points. But yeah, so I think I ended up with about a 30k red, which considering I benched 18-point Palmer that almost everybody else owned, I'll take it, to be honest.
I was pretty livid because, I've got no chance of catching either of you up really. But the chance I do have is you benching 20 points and getting your captain wrong. And, Alvarez coming with 7. I had Foden who got 12. So there was kind of 5 points there, plus the 18. I was laughing until Areola, of all people, 11 points.
Well, it was when everybody went, God, I've got Dubravka on my bench, like they would have played him against Liverpool. And then obviously Areola comes in with an 11. So yeah, no, that was quite good, to be fair. But yeah, look at that bench. If only, like somebody said in the chat, if only I'd have accidentally pressed the bench boost button, I'd have been absolutely laughing.
Would have beaten mine, yeah.
So the Palmer versus Solanke versus Richarlison debate, I guess it was those three, right? What decided it for you? Just Solanke's form, was it?
Solanke, I wasn't really looking at benching, to be perfectly honest. I was looking at Spurs and thinking he was going to have a few chances. He did have quite a few chances as well.
He had 9 shots, didn't he?
Yeah, it was between Richarlison and Palmer for me. And I just looked at I kind of let narrative take over a little bit, and I thought Luton, tough at home. They have been giving people good games, and I didn't think Palmer would get 18 points. I thought he might get a return, but I thought Richarlison might get more. So that's the big thing that really... I was out with the family. I was out with my son, and he saw him score the goal, and I just put my phone down. I thought, I'm not going to look anymore. And then obviously looked afterwards, and he's got 2 goals and the assist. So, yeah, is what it is. Yeah. What can you
it's
do?
not nice, is it? Palmer in a 12-30, and we've got that scenario again, but the opposite situation where we might captain him.
Yeah,
and he's going
to be my
first,
captain.
So, is he? Right, okay.
I feel like I owe him.
God, that could go wrong. Right, I'm happy with my captain now.
It was an interesting because we're in the chat, the 3 of us and Luke as well, and Luke was talking about benching Solanke, and Mark and I were like, you can't bench Solanke for Palmer. You can't bench him. He's too good. But with your team, Andy, at least I said you should bench Richarlison. I did say that to you, so I mugged Luke off, but I did my best for you. But
thank you. Richarlison got a return, which is what I expect. I just expected both of them to get a return. It was just trying to work out who was going to get more, and obviously Palmer smashed it.
Yeah. I mean, it was all going to be down to luck, wasn't it? Because Richarlison, Solanke, and Palmer were all very good assets with fixtures. I mean, in Spurs away doesn't look a good fixture, but when you're up against the makeshift defence that had plummeted down the defensive data, it did look a good fixture for Solanke. I think he scored in 8 consecutive games in all comps or something. It was silly like that as well. He was on an incredible run. But yeah, he did everything but scored, and he hit the post. Had a couple.
He had
of
9
chances.
shots.
Yeah,
9 shots.
It's highest. He had a higher XG than his hat trick.
Did he?
Yeah. just one of those weeks. FPL Bateman's in the chat. He says interactive means we've nothing prepared for this stream.
Yes, it does come across.
Yeah,
like that,
it does.
but that's not strictly true.
We've got a few things up our sleeve for the stream. So, yeah. We're not getting any questions either, so we're going to have to really blag this for the next hour a bit. It's fine. What does that mean, Andy, for the great and the good standings? Puts you still comfortably in mid-table. As we talked about last week, difference in captains last week was split really between Salah and Alvarez. Salah coming through. People like Mark at the end, the boring dullard managers, and the mavericks like us with Alvarez and Foden, didn't really get our rewards. But yeah, I mean, how are you feeling kind of over the halfway stage of the season now? You're 130k in the world. You must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, pretty happy with that. I mean, I was in the top 100k before this week happened. I was 4th in this, I think, before this week happened, and everybody else had kind of 90s / getting their century. So yeah, no, I take it. I think Mark always says if you're in the top million halfway through,
cheers, mate.
You'd be pretty happy. So
cheers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's only if you're outside the top million you've really got to think about your life.
I think
you, really.
Weren't there people in the community saying if you're outside of the top million after game week 3, you're never getting top 10k?
Yeah.
Was it that bad that early? Right.
Didn't we? I remember us in pre-season, Mark. Didn't we do a thing on a lot of managers, and we said if you're not top million in the first sort of 10 weeks, then you've never gonna. I think it was win it or something. Everyone got off to a decent start. So getting off to a good start does normally mean you that's how you enter.
Yeah, I think when we looked at the top 10 of last year, there was only one who wasn't in the top million after 5 or 6 weeks, wasn't there? So it's obviously we're not going to win it, but it's fine.
Oh, sorry, Az.
I've settled for that.
Hey, I'm the highest rank I've been this season. I'm laughing at the moment. Don't even worry about it. We're going to get some questions about. I mean, there are some interesting moves that people can make. I mean, Ivan, Tony, Mark, and I discussed last week. Thoughts on Maverick move to get Tony and give him the captain. Spoiler for you on the wild card. Tony's in.
Oh,
sorry, you're going Tony on the wild card?
I'm not definitely. I mean, we've already got Sash in the chat, one of our Godfather team members, giving it the old Az's attention seeking. I always get this. What
doing it for the clicks.
What have I got to gain from doing that?
Clickbait wildcard.
It's a purely 1 week pump with Tony.
This is the problem with the members chat. Sorry, Andy. This is the problem with the members chat. They got to know you now. They've sussed you out, as you see. Sorry, Andy. Anyway,
it doesn't sound like something you would do. Is activating your chips just to get people liking your tweets and stuff. It sounds ridiculous.
It's completely out of character.
What's your front 3?
Oh, you have to wait. You have to wait and see, won't you? You're not going to like it.
God. It's Tony, Ben Brereton Diaz.
Yeah, he's a mid actually. So,
he's a mid actually.
Yeah,
isn't he? Yeah,
get it
sorry.
right. Yeah.
I've turned myself up because some people are saying I was too low. I don't know what's going on with our sound levels.
You're
but,
very loud now. You're like
Am I?
you're coming through very. Or was that just one person saying that?
Yeah, I don't know. How's our sound levels, chat? How are we doing? Who's quiet and who's
You're
loud?
deafening me, but I can turn myself down a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Right.
That's nice. No, you go.
Oh, M. Darewell saying Raptor in the hose. He's wearing tights, is he? Okay.
The later hose.
Whatever he's into. Wednesday
Welcome,
night.
Raptor. Yeah, settle down in your nylons there.
We'd do one of these streams. I feel like the three of us, we normally had a few beers or a few whiskies or anything. I haven't really got anything.
I've been at work all day, so I've had about 15 beers. Yeah,
Yeah, that's standard.
I'm joking.
What have you got, Andy? Any ciders on the go?
I've literally got nothing. I literally had to put the kids to bed and rush down here, so I've got nothing, unfortunately.
Oh, nice. Oh, thanks
sorry.
Thanks for joining.
Bloody kids. Yeah.
Do I want to mention that now, or shall I wait till later? No, I'll mention it later. It's fine. I have to wait for that as well. Let's take a look at the transfer algo. So when we are looking at chips, when we are looking at transfers and all of that, we showed the Ben Crellin kind of chart last week, but we've got to bear in mind that the odds, it looks to me, Mark, like the odds for 25 double were kind of increasing by the day.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, 25 double looks almost certain, doesn't it? It's not absolutely certain, but looking at the way the FA Cup could run and the way the Premier League have got to get the fixtures in, I think it's very likely, that this shows it, doesn't it? 1.68 for one game, 1.64, 1.58. Yeah, so the probabilities that we'll have a Liverpool double are strong. A Liverpool versus Luton should drop in there, we think, because look, there's no way they can put that game further forward. Well, they could try, they could leave it, but if they leave it and Liverpool progress in all the cups, including Europe, it's going to be a real problem. So I think they have to move it forward. And it's much the same for City's fixture as well, in that they could leave it till later in the season, but it's going to cause problems as City progress. And you've got to presume that City will progress in the Champions League and the FA Cup. So yeah, I think we're looking at a very real possibility that double 25 is going to happen. Yeah.
Which is
at least one fixture.
Yeah, but it is a bit of an issue with Liverpool, particularly, and obviously Luton. But you load up on your Liverpool assets, and then they're going straight into a blank, most likely, depending on how the legs of the Carabao Cup get into. So
yeah,
it is a tricky one, and especially because Salah could well be returning around that time as well. And we don't know whether he's going to come straight in for the first game of that double or the second. It feels like there's got to be some flexibility we need around that. How are you approaching this, Andy? Is Salah going? Are you keeping? Are you looking at other Liverpool players? You got Darwin as well, so what are you doing with him?
I don't have Darwin.
You haven't got Darwin
all season.
No. You've done well there.
Yeah. No, that was the stream with me and Mark where he ditched. Who was it? He ditched Watkins to get Darwin.
Yeah, thanks for that, Andy.
Anyway,
yeah.
I did it as well for a hit.
I'm literally. That's all I come on for.
Well, yeah, he did it for a hit. As always, does it better.
Yeah. I'm this season.
No, I mean, if I sell a midfielder this week, it would be Son, because I want to keep Salah because he's the one that I will definitely want moving forward. Whereas Son, I feel like will be, especially with the potential blank in Game Week 26 and in 29, it'll be looking like I will not have Son for those. So I'm thinking that I mean, Trent's now injured, which doesn't help, but he should be back for then anyway. But I think the big thing is the fact they blank in 26 is obviously, so you're going to be loading up on them. I mean, the people, that's why I'm looking at your wildcard and thinking, going to be loading up on these players and they're going to blank in 26 and you've got the blank in 29.
Yeah, I know. Tell him, Andy.
Yeah. I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, but anyway.
Well,
yeah,
I think 29's obvious free hit week, isn't it?
No,
what? No, I think 30 wildcard, dead end into 29, wildcard in 30 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's exactly the strategy that I picked out in the
yeah.
You really need to listen to Planet FBL and that might change your mind on there. So yeah, just a plug for that. Planet FBL have done their usual chip strategy pod. The first one, they'll do many others, but it's very, very good.
But is it not like there's still 8, 9 game weeks to go until then? You can put off the wildcard, take more and more hits. Like, we're going to talk about my wildcard idea in a bit, but yeah. I basically have. If you want to get Haaland back, I think the majority of us have to sell Salah. And I mean, Andy, are you able to get Haaland without selling Salah?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm not. So So if I get Haaland back, I'm basically going without Salah for Game Week 25.
Well, you sell.
But
Okay. You've got no other route to getting Haaland back.
No.
Why is that? Is that because you got Trent as well?
Yeah. That's because I know Mark's already sold Trent, for example, to get those funds out. My funds are low, really low, across the board because I haven't been pursuing the price changes as much. I've been doing a Joe who's been on Twitter.
Not been making early transfers.
Yeah, I mean, what do we make about the early transfers thing?
You want me to get started on that?
Well, it's bitten people this week, hasn't it? I mean, there's been people that moved early for Bowen. There's been people that moved for other players. Making kind of you almost call them luxury transfers at the moment. And then Trent's obviously injured and Bowen's out. It's the risk you take, right? Especially with games in the FA Cup.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, first of all, it's bad. It's bad fortune, I think, in that Bowen's not an injury-prone player. So I nearly moved early. I had a look at it. I mean, I'm not advocating making transfers 2 weeks out from deadline. Of course, I'm not, and I'm not advocating that information isn't better than price changes. Of course, more information is, but you don't know when you delay your transfers exactly what that information will be, right? You don't know the value of it, right? So you can't definitely be sure every game week that the information you get if you wait is going to be worth that wait and worth the fact that you've let price rises go by. But price rises, there's no question that having a team with more team value gives you more options, so gives you more strategies you can pursue. And I'll give you an example, right? So this is me this week. The reason why I've made my transfers already is because I wanted to put myself in a situation where I could sell Salah for another player like Jota or Bowen and have enough in the bank where I could just do a swap back from that player to Salah. So I had enough in the bank to absorb the price difference between what I sell him for and what I'd have to buy him back for, which is about 0.3. So I've made transfers to protect that 0.3 in the bank because I knew that if I wanted to get Trent out for another player, I really wanted to keep that 0.3 there. And Doherty was about to go up overnight, and if I'd have let it go, I wouldn't have that 0.3 buffer. So I made the transfer earlier than deadline, with the Luton team news still to come, because I wanted to make sure I give myself that option later. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If I consider, I have to weigh up the risk of, okay, the Luton team news, it might be that he's ill or picked up an injury in training, fine. But I'd rather, because I've got a player on the bench as well, so I've got Trippier who could come on, which isn't disastrous, because I kind of mitigate the risk a little bit, I'd rather commit to that risk and go, no, I've got the stomach for it, because then later, when it comes to game week 23, I don't have to sell Salah now. I don't have to sell Salah to get Haaland. I've sold Trent to get Haaland. But if I want to sell Salah because Egypt look like they're going to get to the final and Salah's not going to be back till mid-25, I can swap Salah out to Bowen in 23 and then get him back when I like, because I'll have the money in the bank to absorb that difference. I'll only have that money in the bank because I moved early for Doughty. And so when people say, price rises aren't worth it, well, they can be worth it if they unlock options and strategies that you wouldn't be able to otherwise reach if you didn't make that early transfer. Now, obviously, when people don't make early transfers, they never look back and go, if only I'd have made that early, I'd have had 0-1, I'd have got that strategy, and that strategy earned me 20 more points. Oh, damn, why didn't I make an early transfer? No one does that, do they? So we never get that evaluation of whether early transfers are worthwhile. All we get is, Bowen's injured, Trent's injured, why have people made early transfers? Of course, so it's easy to say that, isn't it?
But is the issue this week that people making transfers before games were played, and also people, you talk about benches, you having a fairly strong bench, you're probably in the minority there, because a lot of people with Salah, with Son, going with players like Kabore, Taylor being injured, Archer potentially being out of the team, didn't play the last game, and now Diaz has come in. There's a lot more uncertainty around who's going to start. So the risk of going early, I think this week was a lot more.
Yeah, I totally agree. But the thing is, when people speak out about early transfers, they're not going, early transfers are okay in these circumstances, but in these circumstances, they're just saying no early transfers. It's the wrong thing to do. And it comes across as so definitive and right and wrong, which is, I don't really like that in the community. It's like they let people play the game they want to play with their own team and their own strategy. And if people have got a belly for the risk, let them do it, because it does have rewards. It's nonsense to say there aren't rewards, because you just said 5 minutes ago you haven't got the team value to do the things I've got, because I've made early transfers and taken risks that you haven't. no one looks back and sees the benefits, but everyone just jumps on the risks involved and goes, oh, you're crazy, you made a new transfer, look at you. And I also don't understand what those posts even gain people. What are they trying to do? They're trying to educate the community to play better, or are they just being a little bit smug and saying, I know the right way to play? You know, I don't know, but I just don't like it.
Where do you sit on it, Andy? Are you more balanced approach, or?
Yeah, I think I was going to say that before Mark said it at the end there, is that I think it's a balanced kind of, there are some weeks where it makes sense and some weeks where it doesn't. I know Mark put in our WhatsApp saying, oh, I think I might make the move for the -1, for the 0.1. And I literally said, didn't I, you're mental. Because I was like, Bowen won't be playing for another 3 weeks. And obviously he's got the game as well. And I didn't feel like this was a week where it made sense. Whereas there's been other weeks, and Mark's completely right, where beginning of the season, it feels like it's good to do it because obviously you're building up that team value and you can do more. And look at, you know, yourself as, you can't do that move this week because your team value is so poor. Whereas both of us are sitting there thinking, yeah, we can do that and it's not too bad. But I do think it's just about balance, and it's just about making sure that you don't use blanket statements to say, this is what you should do and this is what you should always do, because everybody's so different and everybody's in different things. So, yeah, I think... It's always the same though, isn't it? People use blanket statements and everybody gets annoyed, and it's somewhere in between most of the time.
Yeah, it is. It's always somewhere in between, isn't it? There's always circumstance and stuff. So, but like I say, the benefits of making a transfer, no one ever looks back and checks that. So it gets a bad press because of that. Because no one's going to come back and go, you know what? If I'd have made an early transfer 5 game weeks ago, I'll be 30 points better off. No one's going to do that because no one can be bothered. Yeah. I certainly can't.
Surprised you haven't done it, Mark.
No, it's just, I know there must be benefit, the ability to have more money and have more options with your choices and strategies surely is a benefit. Right? It goes without saying. Yes, more information is best. But again, like I say, standing here now, I don't know what information I'm going to get tomorrow. Is that going to be more valuable than the strategy where I could maybe get Salah in and out with 2 transfers? I thought not. That was my choice, with my team and my bench, right, and the level of risk that I'm prepared to take. So I think that's a valid strategy. It may blow up in my face, and then I'll expect lots of tweets going on.
Well, imagine if you had gone for Bowen, because then you would
be. I was not going to do it. But I think I said that night, oh, there's a 0-2 swing, Salah out, Bowen in, and you were quick to jump on that, and you saved me, Andy.
Saved you. Just like Alf was trying to save me last week. The
Bowen thing's crazy luck.
Oh, it is.
I think it's one reason why benches are so important, though, isn't it? Because if you are if you're rolling with a bench of Archer, Taylor, and Kabore, for example, that might actually make you less kind of wanting to go for the value because you're having to bring one of those in. Whereas if you've got some decent players on the bench, then you can mitigate the risk. So maybe that's
2 free transfers.
Yeah,
2 free transfers is a big factor as well, because you can make one and you've always got one to get yourself out of it if it's a disaster through the team news. It's not ideal, but again, it's just risk and reward.
Yeah,
so, anyway, all good.
Yeah, good. We've had a couple of super chats, so let's just take those
questions.
Yeah.
That's not a question.
This is a very generous super chat from Kenneth M. I absolutely did not bribe him to ask this. It just says, well done, Az. Guess the player. Was an unbelievable effort.
Oh, God.
Thanks for the stream and all the Godfather's help. No questions, just a simple keep up the good work. Did you both see Juice? I know you did, Mark.
I did. It was a 3-hour marathon, wasn't it?
It was.
I usually watch it every week, but I gave it a miss this week.
Don't watch it for me. Watch it for Steve-O. He was absolutely awesome.
He was.
He's about the most compelling person to listen to, I think out there. He just goes off on these monologues, and you're just like drawn to what's coming from his mouth. It's amazing. But there has been some controversy because for anyone that didn't see it, obviously check out FPL Juice, one of the most underrated streams and podcasts out there. They do a game called Guess the Player, where they ask you, they pick a player and they ask the guest to ask yes or no questions and try and get the player in. I've done it a few times and done kind of okay.
Done it a few times. You've been practicing. You were doing it
at weddings.
You were doing it at a bloody wedding when I
meant
last
officially. I've done it officially on Juice.
You've been up all night. You and Yelena guessing the player.
I've trained for it, but I meant officially on the show.
Trained for it. I'll get him, Andy.
And the record was Mo. So he had, I think his was 7.5 seconds. Originally they said I got 6.9 seconds, which turned out not to be true. They got the thing wrong. There was then a VAR check, and I think it's come in that I was 7.8 seconds, so 0.1 faster than Mo. But now there's another VAR check gone because they've gone back to Mo's video from 2 years ago, and they're now looking to see whether the clock started too early.
I'm glad they got my email. That's great.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard such a load of rubbish in your life? They're VARing something from 2 years ago.
I'm sorry, it has to be fair.
This is Premier League every week.
Hey,
VAR controversy.
March's goal last year, they didn't give points for that, did they? Edison's assist, they're not going to retrospectively add those. They shouldn't be retrospectively changing Mo's.
Well, if you're going to blatantly
score.
cheat your way to the top of that table, then I don't know how you can live with yourself.
I'm just glad that they saw your overall rank and went, he needs this.
Yeah, he does. Let's give him a really. Oh, they gave me Kuna.
3 seconds.
Wasn't even that easy.
I actually think that was an easy one because once you got Wolves and you went through positions.
Sorry, Wolves isn't that easy.
Name me another Wolves forward.
That Fabio Silva, is he still there?
Well, just about. Yeah, okay. He's not there anymore, but yeah.
Diego Costa, is he still there?
No. See, so once you got Wolves in the position, you got the player.
Wolves is tricky because it's not a North or a South team; it's in the Midlands, and also a lot of people go by kit colour. And that's a hard one to get with the.
But not a lot of people practice in their spare time like you.
keep taking it away from him, Mark. Keep taking it away.
I hate you too. Yeah. They can't even in the most miserable season of my life. They can't even let me have.
No, there should be no joy allowed.
But no, seriously, do check out Juice if you haven't seen it already. Obviously, there's another five-a-side tournament coming as well, where BlackBox will be represented by myself as captain again, hoping to build on our semi-final appearance in the last tournament. If you haven't checked out their streams, do so. They're a brilliant podcast, and it's really great in the studio. Have you been on Juice, Andy?
Yes, I've been on Juice. Yeah.
Have you gone in? Have you gone into the studio? No,
I'd love to, but I haven't. No, I can't get to London for 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah, I'd love to. It looks awesome.
They might give you like a hoodie or a pint glass for going in. They've got some really nice merch now.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, that'll
do it.
Bribery. Yes.
I got back about 1 o'clock in the morning when I did it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
God, if you'd gone on as long as it went on last night, Mark, you would have been back. You would have got a hotel to stay over. Another super chat from Skimpton. Thank you very much for the super chat. A great bench boost. There you go, Andy. One for you. Dubravka, Palmer, Saka, and Branthwaite. 34 points. 101 points game week overall. Keep up the great work. 34 points on your bench boost. That is. You don't get much better than that.
It's funny, actually, because when you think about we had the bench dilemma, maybe we should have bench boosted our way out of it. And then, Andy, you'd have done very well indeed, wouldn't you? So did it ever cross your mind at all?
No, not at all. Not at all.
The thin blue line between success and...
Yeah, if anything, I thought, well, at least if I've got Palmer first bench, if someone doesn't play, he can come on. But no, I didn't at all think about bench boost. No, especially with Dubravka there. Like I always look at keepers and I always think, is my keeper going to do well? And obviously, he didn't at all, did he? Well, he did, but I wasn't expecting him to.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. It's just when I look at the chip strategy going forward, there isn't a great game week to bench boost coming forward anyway. So I think Az has blatantly got away with that ridiculous accidental bench boost because there isn't a good one for us.
We said that to make him feel better, didn't we? Saying that actually the fact it's out of the way now.
Well, wildcard strategies we're going to be talking about. I haven't got to worry about when to play the bench boost. So
that's why you're wildcarding this week.
Playing it early. Well, I'm just saying playing it earlier isn't as big a deal for me as it might be.
Why don't you just play your chips in concurrent weeks and then you haven't got to worry about your chips at all?
That would be nice. I would love to do that, Mark. Get them all out the way. That's what Nathan Bacon did, didn't he, in the first few weeks of the season? Just burned through the wall. I think he's 10 million in the world now, but he had fun. He did
that on purpose.
He did.
He had fun.
Yeah, he did have fun. Here's a controversial one from Jason Stilling. Any thoughts on the manual manipulation of price changes?
I heard Juice talking about that. There's a lot of chatter about that in the studio. They don't manipulate them as much as Nima was kind of claiming. I think there's a little bit of paranoia about this, but I can only think that that's one of the reasons why there's no transparency with it, because there are times when they like to, I think, have the freedom to intervene, but they don't do it very often. I mean, like once every couple of seasons, maybe. I mean, so it's not happening every week or anything like that. And
it happened. Well, it seems to happen to the big names. That's why people talk about it. It happened to Lukaku, didn't it? A few years ago when he was injured or something, and his price stayed the same. It happened to, obviously, Haaland as well. But then Salah dropped quite a lot last year when he went to AFCON. I think he went down 0.3 or 0.4. So. there's something that they just want to. I think they just want to keep certain players round about a certain price, especially a 90% owned player like Haaland. If it went with the normal rules, he could drop down to what 11.5, 11.6 over like 7 or 8 weeks. So is there a little bit of wanting to keep him around his starting price?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, I imagine that something went on with that as well. I mean, like you talked about as well, transparency with price rises. If there were, imagine early transfers then. It'd be absolutely crazy. So, I mean, the early transfer situation is a problem now, and yet not all the player base by any means has access to tools that show when player price rises are happening. If the Premier League were upfront with it and said, oh, tonight there are 10 players rising, the early transfer situation would really upset people, because that's one of the reasons why people don't make early transfers, because it drives the prices up. Well, it would be a massive problem for them if it was the case they were transparent about it. So maybe that's one of the reasons as well. Maybe it's like they want it to be something you've got to go and find, something that the more dedicated player has access to, but not everybody, because they think that if they tweeted out on a Monday night Haaland's going up in price, there might be 1 million transfers in for Haaland all of a sudden, which is feasible when it's a player like Haaland and there's 10 million players. So I think there are reasons for what they do, but I will say with some confidence they don't intervene very often at all.
Would you like to see more transparency, Andy, or are you kind of happy with how it is?
No, I it's one of the things I've never got why it's not transparent. I really don't understand. Like, if it was transparent and you knew exactly when they were happening, I don't think anybody would be saying, oh, I wish it wasn't transparent. I wish we didn't know when they were happening. I think everybody would just be like, brilliant, you can plan properly and you know exactly when things are happening. I do get what Mark just said there in terms of, all of a sudden, if you know for definite somebody's going up, there's going to be loads of transfers in. But I don't think there's enough people playing in that way to make it that much of a difference at a certain point of the season, if that makes sense. Maybe at the beginning of the season when there's so many people that are so into it. But I just don't see why they don't make it transparent. But then there's quite a few things that FPL do that I'm thinking, I don't know whether they're that bothered, to be perfectly honest. I don't know whether they think about it and think, oh, let's get some feedback and kind of work on it. I don't know whether they do it like that.
Well, I think they deliberately don't make it transparent so that they can do things like keep players around 14 million and not have them drop too much without having a big stink about it. But it already is transparent. We're just having to use third-party tools to do it. I think that's the biggest problem. If those tools didn't exist and it was completely, down to the gods almost, what players rose, and it was completely, not random, but no one really knew for sure what was going to happen, that's one thing. I think with a 25-30% player base who have access to a pretty reliable set of tools which can tell you whether the prices are going to go up, I think that's a huge problem for FPL.
Yeah.
In a game they're trying to make more and more accessible to like the general player. And Mark and I have said, that's an advantage that we have as kind of engaged managers, so we can use these tools to inform our strategies. But other people don't have that, and I don't know what, it just seems a bit strange to me, because they could have a site which I think Focal's done a really good graphic of how it could kind of look, and if it just said Haaland locked, what's wrong with that? I don't know why people aren't going to kick off about that. I don't think.
You say it's a benefit for us. It's not always a benefit, though, is it? Like, you look at what's happened this week, the amount of people that moved because of the price changes.
Well, Estupiñán last night.
Don't think about it.
I moved for Estupiñán last night because he was almost certainly going to go up according to the price changes websites, and he didn't. And it was Doty who went up, who I think was less likely to go up than Estupiñán. Yeah. So it's not a perfect metric, but it's still pretty good. I'd say it's 80% reliable, 85% reliable. It's still a very good measure. Without it, you wouldn't have a clue who was going to go up and how. Because sometimes you see players
go
up.
Well, you would, because you could see the.
Well, that's the question. Is it what would your choice be, Mike? If you could pick either no information at all, so FPL fix and statistics and all those just completely go, and you'd have no idea what's going to happen, or official FPL make it transparent, which would you prefer?
Yeah, I think I'd like the transparency, but I do think that would make the volatile nature of the prices even more difficult for people like those who aren't really up for taking risks early by making transfers. They'd be losing out even more because the prices would be rising faster, wouldn't they? And I guess they'd change the algorithm. That's what they'd have to do. They'd have to slow the amount of rises down because the volume of transfers would be higher. So there's an easy way out of it. So I think transparency and slower price rises would be my choice. What is interesting, what Nima said was the Premier League, it's surprising they don't make a thing of the fact that players are going up in price, through interactions and so on social. Totally agree with that. I do wonder whether they've sat down, not in my time they didn't, sat down and gone, well, if we were transparent on price rises, every day we would have a set of posts that would be, these players are likely to go up tonight. What do you think, folks? And they're foregoing that by not having that transparency. So that's an interesting angle that I wonder in the future whether that will drive them to do it.
Yeah, interesting. No, good question, Jason. Thank you very much for that. Right, let's get into some data then. Let's go into Trent first, because Trent was obviously the big news sort of coming into this. So let's have a look at the Trent. I don't know if I even got the Trent data. What's this one?
Sent it to you.
That's not the one. You saw me put it in as well. It's got to be here somewhere.
This is the stuff they want, Andy. This
is what they want.
Oh, do you know what? I was going to bin this off.
Me and you are giving them what they want, Mark. It's all about ours, isn't it?
Grab it again. There we go. I definitely built this screen. I don't know why it's not in there. Anyway, Trent replacements. So Trent is out for 3 weeks. That's what we've been told, and that would be one game week at best, essentially, because obviously they've got a while until the next game, and then I think it's Arsenal where he's got like a 30% chance of featuring or something someone said, and then Chelsea is the or is it the other way around? Is it Chelsea first or Arsenal? I can't remember. It's one of the two.
It depends who you're talking about, but there's various views Chelsea on when he'll be back. People are saying that it
Chelsea
could only be 1 week.
Yeah, it's Chelsea first 22 on the 31st of January, so that would be exactly 3 weeks from today. So he's got a chance of that if the 3 weeks is true, because that was said kind of a couple of days ago. But it's probably more likely looking at Arsenal in 23, which is on my birthday, if anyone cares, on the 4th of Feb.
Was that a prompt for an early present?
Yeah, absolutely. So he's back for 23. So he'd miss Bournemouth and Chelsea, and then he'd go into Arsenal, Burnley, Brentford, Luton, Forest. It's a great run for him. After that, although obviously you've got the blank in 26, which may or might not happen, and also obviously the potential double in 25 as well. So before we get into the replacements, Andy, where are you sitting on Trent? Are you selling? Are you keeping?
I'm keeping him at the moment, just because I've got so many other issues. Like fair enough. I've seen people that are saying they're going to take a -4 to get Estepinian in, and I kind of get that. I mean, -4s for defenders are always tough, but I'm looking at him and just thinking Son or Salah has to go. I'm looking at thinking Haaland's got to come back in. And obviously I'm looking at all the other things in my team and thinking, I don't think I'm going to be getting Trent out, because he could potentially be back in 22 and then I'm fine anyway. So yeah, at the moment, he's kind of low on my priority list. But if there are people out there with no playing defenders, then I do kind of get the move. But surely people have got Son and Salah and they need to get rid of one of them for one of these midfielders. But yeah, I think Estepinian makes a lot of sense with the fixtures they've got coming up, especially considering the fact he's just scored 2 bangers as well. But who have they got? They've got Wolves, Luton, Crystal Palace, their next 3. And then from Gameweek 25 to 28 is lovely as well. But yeah, I think having Trent and knowing you've still got him for Gameweek 25, if you want him for 25 as well, could be big. Because obviously it's going to be really tough to get him back in if you're going to maybe use those funds for Haaland. So it's just what you want to do moving forward, really. If he comes back in 22, I think you're absolutely fine. But yeah, if he starts stretching into 23, it becomes a little bit tougher maybe. But I think I'll probably just hold him.
So Ryan says here, a few reports that Liverpool are overplaying the Trent injury and he could be fine for Bournemouth. I haven't seen any reports saying they're overplaying the injury. But when I first heard about it, I don't know why, but I've just got a feeling that he's not that injured. I don't know what it is.
Like Haaland.
Yeah, well, no, Haaland. We knew that one, didn't we? But Trent, I don't know. The Trent one just seems a bit funny, but I don't know why they would.
Why would they? Have you seen? There was footage of him limping out of the ground.
Mark, I've got nothing to back it up. I'm not even going to pretend.
Do you not think Klopp controls what goes in and out of that club?
That was good. Someone's been watching us, Mark. Someone's been watching us.
Of course. I don't know where you're going with that, Andy. But yeah, there was footage of him limping out the limping past the press, wasn't there? I don't know. I haven't seen the claims that they're overplaying it. Why would they do that though? I don't really understand why they would try?
Well, it's a
that?
big month for them, isn't it? They've got Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Arsenal. I'm not even going to say about it anymore. Honestly, when I saw it though, even when I heard the press conference, my first thought was it'll be all right. I think it's because of the gap between now and Bournemouth. Like I just feel like they've got this gap to rest him and bring him back, and he's so integral. Like I kind of just feel if he is able to play, surely they just get him on the pitch. But if he is injured, fair enough. And
I mean,
but you've sold him already, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, my policy this season has been to be cynical about injuries and come down on the negative side of what managers and teams say about injuries. You know, the Botman one, I was going on about that for a few weeks. And I think
1-0 Fulham, by the way.
Sorry,
1-0 Fulham.
Okay. I think the detail they went into with the injury is quite interesting. I think in the quote, like they talked about where the injury was and it was a minor tear, etc. They could have just said, "Oh, he's got a knock. He's going to miss tomorrow night's game," couldn't they? And then if he is back for game week 21, that's it. Why would they volunteer all that information about the tear in the knee and he should hopefully he'll come back as strong as he is and so on, right? So I'm more the other way. I'm more that perhaps actually it's quite an injury that could blow up and be a month out or longer. But that's been my policy all season to be like I'm gonna err on the side of caution here and think no, he's going to be out for a few games. So that's but the big reason I did it is because I got 2 transfers, so I did get rid of Son already, and by getting rid of Trent I can get Haaland in and keep Salah on the bench. So that's why I did it basically.
And looking at the list of players, I mean, there are some good options. Trippier came back at putting a good performance against Sunderland, obviously a big game. So many attacks going down his side as well. He looked kind of back to his best. If you look at the stats, I mean, he's the obvious choice really, with most chances created. Obviously, the most points out of the players that we're going to look at. Chances created per 90, big chance created per 90. The BPS obviously so high, gets bonus whenever he gets anything pretty much. And the highest XGI non-penalty per 90. I mean, Porro's obviously really popular. Stupinan is kind of flavour of the week. Everyone seems to be buying him as well. And then you've got little Alfie Doughty, who Mark's brought in. And if you look at the stats, the goal involvement's the highest, 33% of Luton's goals. So 1 in 3 goals he's had a hand in. And open play crosses, absolutely outrageous, 4.51. That's the highest in the league, isn't it, of all players?
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, he is their route to goal, isn't he? A lot of it, because they rely on his delivery from open play and set play pieces. And I had a look at the teams they're playing, and over their next 6, they're playing 4 of the worst 6 teams for set piece goals conceded. And in that top 6 is Luton themselves. So they're effectively playing, there's only 5 they could have played. So, Brighton, surprisingly, aren't one of those teams. Brighton's the only one. So Burnley are the worst team for conceding goals at set play, or expected goals conceded at set plays. So Friday's game, I'm hoping to get something, because Alfie will be on set plays against Burnley, who we saw recently were really struggling with those corners, weren't they? I think it's Liverpool game. They really struggled at them. Newcastle have been weak. Sheffield United and Manchester United, all those 4 teams have been weak at set plays. So and also, they go to Burnley against a team that were weak at set plays, and then Luton have got 3 home games in 4: Brighton, Sheffield United, and Man United. I think Luton will have a right good go at those 3 teams at home at Kenilworth Road. So I think he's all right. I think, and the beauty of it for me is he's cheap enough where he keeps that 0-3 buffer, so that if I do decide to sell Salah, I can get him back in one move, as I said earlier. So the positives outweighed the negatives. I would have wanted a Stupinan, but I think Doughty's a good second choice.
Do you like Doughty, Andy?
Yeah, I don't mind him. I think he's a perfect player to have kind of, what is he, 4.4? So he's a perfect 4th or 5th
It's gone up
defender.
now. He's gone up to 4.5 last night.
4.5. I know you were mentioning Trippier just now, like the stats. I wouldn't be going anywhere near Trippier at the moment. He's got City at home and then Villa away. And then obviously the fixtures are quite nice, but I don't think I'd be going near him. I think Doughty's absolutely fine. I think if you're going for him, especially with the attacking output, but I do get why people are going for a Stupinan at the moment. I think that is a good shout, especially with the fixtures as well. 7 of the next 8 fixtures look pretty lovely, don't they? So I do get that. And the attacking output's there, isn't it? So I think out of all of them there, he's the one I'd be going for.
I know.
I was going to say Walker with the double game week to come in 25 potentially is the kind of mid-term pick. It perhaps is a little bit early to go Walker, but if you don't want to make another defensive transfer during this time up to 25, then Walker's a good option as well. Just Doughty was more attractive to me because of what he would enable with the money. The other thing I would say about Doughty versus Stupinant, there's not a lot in it for clean sheets. I mean, I don't back the Brighton defence much more than the Luton defence. It purely comes down to attacking output. And Stupinant get scores goals and Doughty doesn't, so he's definitely got the edge.
I'm going to disagree with you on that over the next few weeks. We have been riddled with injuries. I mean, there's no secret about that. We've had Europe to contend with as well. We've had Dunk in and out of suspensions. We've had to play strange players at centre back. We've experimented with like Belabor in midfield, and that hasn't really been working. I feel like I know we've got obviously Matoma and Adingra out, but midfield and defence, I feel like we're actually quite settled at the moment. Goalkeeper position is still kind of up in the air. Verbruggen came in the last match when still looked like he had the place down, but he switched to kind of a Stupinant in a sort of a left centre back type role. And it's working really nicely because Van Heck's had a good season. Dunk's been playing well kind of all year. I just felt there's a bit more steel, not to use that player's name, but there's a bit more kind of, I don't know, we look a bit more solid when players kind of attack us now. And it was demonstrated in the clean sheet against West Ham. I thought they absolutely destroyed us earlier in the season. And they barely had a sniff, really, at our goal. But
it was a West Ham without Paqueta and Kudos. Right? They're two most creative players, so that's why. They were dreadful on the night, I thought. So.
They were awful, but I don't know. I think without Europe, we've just gone away for this warm weather training in Dubai, which kick-started a really good run for us last year because De Zerbi did it last time when he came in around this time, and just giving them a bit of a break and a bit of a refresh. I think we're in a really good place going into this run of fixtures, and I can see some clean sheets for us and some goals. So I'm really interested in the Brighton players. It's worth noting we have just signed Barco from Boca Juniors.
Yeah.
I've never heard of him, but apparently he's very highly rated.
That's a footy man signing, that is.
Is he? 7.8 million for him. Yeah. I mean, we don't have another left back. It was demonstrated pretty clearly when Estupiñán got injured, and that we've got no one else capable of playing in that position. With March injured, with Lamptey out, we had to sign someone, and I'm glad we've signed like a promising young player rather than a plug the hole 35-year-old like Henderson's being touted for us to sign. Oh, please, no. But it's an exciting signing for us. But I wouldn't worry too much about Estupiñán's minutes. He's too key for the way we play at the moment. He's not going to replace him with Barco. So
no, he'll play. I'm not so certain about the clean sheets. But the goals he can score. It's that's the edge he's got over the others here. He's probably the one most reliable if you're looking for a source of goals. Poyer has plenty of shots. Trippier takes free kicks, as does Doughty. But I think Estupiñán from open play has that stronger goal threat. But and the fixtures are superb. There's no question about it. But yeah, I'd have loved to have got him, but I couldn't stretch to that. So
Jason says he turned out crap on my Foot Manager 24 save. That's it, isn't it? Barco. Bateman's very sassy tonight. It's a bit of sunshine equals clean sheets. Yeah, a bit of time to rest and recuperate, and not have to deal with an insane schedule and with all the injuries we've had. I think we'll do as good. Same with Arsenal. Arsenal have gone away as well, haven't they? And they've been their players have been flogged, and I imagine it's going to do them some good as well.
Fixtures help as well. They have some pretty nice fixtures coming up, so I don't think that's that bad to think they might get a few clean sheets. I mean, what, they've had one all season,
one last week, against West Ham.
Yeah, so maybe there's a bit of an uptick coming then.
Yeah. Other options on this list, we've also got Saliba, Walker and Van Dijk. So I saw FPL Harry did a wildcard team earlier, and he had Van Dijk in it. I'm not a massive fan of that.
It's with the double in mind, isn't it? I guess, right? So that's the thing to point out. Like the players on this list, Doherty, Walker, and Van Dijk could have doubles in 25.
He's had more shots than any other player on this list. Van Dijk, 20 shots in the box, compared to Trippier's 0, for example.
Will Robertson be back in 25?
Could be. Yeah. A lot of people are kind of raising him now in the community and saying, Robertson could be an option when he's back, and definitely feel that's the case. Yeah. I mean, the thing with Van Dijk is they've got they've got Tsimikas out, and now they've got Trent out. So defensively, there's a lot of disruption there. So you'd got to think that clean sheets Liverpool perhaps in the next couple, until Trent's back, it might be difficult to come by. Maybe. I mean, Bournemouth's not an easy place to go, is it? So.
No, tough game. I mean, what do you think of Solanke as well? Because he's been linked with Newcastle quite heavily, teaming up with Howe.
I'd be quite surprised if he goes personally. I don't see Bournemouth selling him because I haven't seen that they've been linked with any strikers coming back in, and they don't really have anybody else. I know they've got Semenyo, but he's gone to AFCON, hasn't he, Semenyo? So I'd be very, very surprised if Solanke, if they get rid of Solanke, maybe in the summer, but I'd be very surprised mid-season. Like they're having a good...
Yeah, agreed. They'll be able to sell him in summer. Why would they sell him in January?
I wouldn't be using Solanke maybe being sold as a reason to do my wild card. Like that's ridiculous.
I never said it. I haven't got him.
I can literally. No, I know. I think he's fine personally still.
Okay. Just the other defender to mention is Walker. He's the only player on this list without any yellow, which means he's not kind of excelling in any stats compared to some of the other options. Only 1 assist this season, no goals. He's kind of lower on the other bits, but he is kind of the most nailed on City defender other than Ederson, and they've got the double, and then they haven't got the potential blank in 26,
no blanks,
as well. So, I mean, it's been funny for clean sheets this season, hasn't it? I mean, you look at Arsenal's defensive numbers, been absolutely out of this world, and no clean sheets. Brighton's defensive data hasn't been terrible this season as well. If we just, in fact, I've got the slide for that. Let me just get that up.
There he goes.
Team data defence over the season. I mean, Brighton is 7th over the season, for example, with 1 clean sheet. Arsenal are top. City is 2nd. They found clean sheets hard to come by. I mean, Villa are 5th. I've had Martinez for like 6 weeks. Not even a sniff of a clean sheet, any of those. So the defensive data this season isn't really yielding the points for the defenders, is it?
No, and you expect an upturn for teams like Brighton and City, don't you? Who are stronger defensively than the clean sheet total tells. So for me, there's no question that City in the second half of the season will get a lot more clean sheets than the few they've got so far. So Walker's a great option for sure. For me, it wasn't. I needed the funds, but I'll be looking at Walker in game week 25 because I don't think I'm going to go back to Trent because I won't have the money to do that because I'm likely to hold Salah all the way through. So. But like Porro out to Walker is certainly something I'm going to look at because obviously Porro blanks in 26.
Trent's going to end up as a bit of a differential, isn't he, Andy, for the double? If he's back and fit, with people moving back to Salah and Haaland?
Sounds it, because the thing is people are going to be using those funds to get back to Haaland when he's back. And obviously they're going to want Haaland for game week 25. So it sounds like Trent's not going to be that highly owned for that game week, to be perfectly honest. And obviously, Mark's already sold him. I've looked at it and just thought I'm probably going to hold him. The worry is if he does do a Haaland, and obviously he misses more games than you're expecting. But then it depends what you can do with the money. Again, if you're struggling for team value, then yes, I think it kind of makes sense to sell maybe a Trent to make sure you can get up to a player if you need to. Like for instance, if you can't get to Haaland unless you sell Trent, then yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense to me. But if you're able to keep him, and I can go into game week 24 where he's got Burnley at home and then he's got the double in 25, I think that's okay. But then again, he's got the blank after that. So I don't think he's an essential hold, but he's somebody that if you can hold him, I think it's not the worst move in the world to get those 3 nice fixtures in 24 and 25.
Imagine if Fulham and Middlesbrough get through to the final.
Well, they could do. I mean, this is it. We're talking about blanks and doubles like it's already foregone conclusion. Of course, it isn't because Chelsea have lost and Fulham are beating Liverpool already. So yeah, I mean that wouldn't ruin things, but it would certainly change our plans going forward.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at some midfielders then. We've built on, I say we, that's all Mark. Mark has built on the midfielders stats, looking at some kind of filtered players. So these are the players that interest you, right, as kind of Son and Salah replacements?
Yeah, I kind of went through the list and took out players that I didn't think were options that people are looking at. So there's still 30-odd players here. There's a lot. So the ones that are being talked about, the ones that are perhaps in the frame at various price points, and filtered it down to that, and then obviously it's sorted by XGI non-penalty per 90, and we've got it over the season here, and then we've got it over the 6 game weeks as well. It's the same set of players. Just as a springboard to discuss, all right, because we did touch on it last week with Richarlison top of this table, and I think he was either first or second overall when all midfielders are included. I guess we should touch on the Werner.
Yeah, we need to,
because that arrived today. So what do you think about that, Andy, in terms of the impact on Richarlison?
I think people have gone crazy about it and said straight away, "Oh no, Richarlison's a bad option now." I think he's going to be absolutely fine personally.
Spot the Richarlison owner.
I'll wildcard him out. It's fine. I mean, Werner's not even getting in the Leipzig team. So why people think he's going to come into Spurs and all of a sudden start every game or take a lot of minutes away from Richarlison? I mean, Richarlison hasn't been great for X minutes since he's come in anyway. He does tend to go off around 60, 70, which isn't obviously the best, but his stats are absolutely ridiculous. Son's out, obviously. So I think Werner will be a squad option and they'll use him when they need to. But I don't see him just coming in and starting games straight away. And I don't see him really kind of usurping Richarlison, who's been quite effective in what he's had to do recently. So I think I won't be touching Werner personally until I see that he's all of a sudden, part of their first team, which I don't think will happen. So I think Richarlison's absolutely fine. And when you look at the data and you look at who do you replace someone like Son with, I think you're hard pressed to find somebody better than Richarlison to replace him with, personally.
That's really interesting because I've gone the other way with my thoughts on it. I think Werner kills Richarlison as an option. He's getting between 60 and 70 minutes up front anyway. Yeah. So it's going to be. I mean, how's the team going to look? I mean, Brennan's probably the most at risk. He's been playing, so it's Richarlison up top, Kulu in the mid. Yeah. I mean, Werner can play either side, but Maddison's going to be back in training pretty soon, and then Son's going to be back in the next few weeks. Yeah. I think it's such a short-term punt with Richarlison now because I just don't know if Richarlison is in the first team when everyone's fit.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that I was listening to James from Planet FPL today, and he's a season ticket holder at Spurs, and he's going nowhere near Richarlison. And actually, there was a few comments made after our last pod from Spurs fans saying if you watch Spurs week in, week out, you wouldn't go near him. So it's almost like the closer you are to the player, the more you watch him, the less likely you are to go.
He was awful against us.
Yeah,
awful.
If you look at data, the data's undeniable. I mean, Andy's spot on. The data says you go with Richarlison. And when you say it's a short-term pick, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because that's what it is, right? Because if they do blank in 26, a lot of people will be selling Richarlison to bring Salah back in anyway, won't they? He'll be one of the ones who would be the fall guy in 25. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Richarlison in short term, unless you think that Werner will impact his X-Mins over these game weeks. And I think there's an element of that. I mean, Andy, you say Werner won't start games. He's come to Spurs because, one, Ange wanted him, and two, he wants to get in that Germany squad. So he isn't coming to sit on the bench. And if you're Werner and his agent, you're saying to Ange, well, I'll come, but I want starts, I want minutes. He isn't coming to go, I'll just do 10 minutes off the bench every week.
Richarlison he hasn't nailed that spot, Richarlison, has he? He hasn't been... I mean, he's got some goals over the last few games, 4 in 5 or something like that, but he still doesn't convince me that he's the right person to be leading the line for Spurs.
I don't think he's the long-term... I don't think he's the long-term solution to their striker options. Obviously, I completely agree with that. But at the moment... I think, and like Mark said, even if he is a short-term option for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, even if it's until Son's back, I don't see anything wrong with still having Richarlison. And if I was on wildcard, I don't see the issue of picking a Richarlison personally, because obviously you're starting from scratch and the rest of your team's going to be okay. And obviously Richarlison.
I was going to say, now you are stretching the imagination.
I'm not saying sell him. If you've got him, you hold him, obviously.
Yeah.
When a week ago, Mark and I did the pod, and I think we both agreed that Richarlison was quite obviously the pick. It was between him and Bowen, I think, for my... They were the two that I was looking to bring in. But with the Werner news, I'm definitely put off from it. And I think Foden is now the play to get if you don't own him.
Well, yeah. We literally... So we spoke about this on Scoutcast. We brought up who was our top 3 replacements. And I had Foden top because of the double, basically. Yeah. And I know I've seen a lot of stuff recently in the community saying that he looks pretty much nailed now, even with KDB kind of coming back. Everything we're hearing from KDB is I've got to be careful, I've got to manage my minutes, I've got to do everything I should be to carry on playing. And it looks like Foden's kind of going to have that central role, play pretty much every game. And I think because that's there, I think that kind of tips him with the double game week, tips him above Richarlison for me. But I think it's close between them just because of the underlines with Richarlison. He's up front and he's on pens as well, isn't he? While Son's away, most probably. So I think it tips. It's close between Richarlison and Foden for me, but obviously I've got Richarlison, so Foden's my kind of guy I'm looking at. But yeah, I'd be surprised. See, you're gonna have Foden, but not Richarlison if you wildcarded as.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But you've already got Foden and no Richarlison without a wildcard. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. I think if I'm not going to own Richarlison going into this period. I don't think, but I've given myself the option to go Salah to Richarlison at some point if I feel Salah's going to get to the final and win the thing. But and I will consider him because I still think the data is really hard to deny. But I like you. I do think Foden got promoted above him. When you look at the quotes on De Bruyne, which I mean that really did put me off Foden at first. But when you hear De Bruyne say, "Oh no, I'm going to be managed carefully," well, that's the insinuation. That tells me that he's only going to start certain games where it's felt that he's needed, and even then, Foden will probably start as well. The form that he's
that's it. Foden's been
if
too
form
good.
is a thing, yes.
Yeah.
If form is a thing, then Foden's definitely got it. So that's what swayed me towards Foden first, rather than going with Charles. I mean, Bowen obviously got ruled out, so. Yeah, so we have changed from last week, and I think that's fine. That's what we said last week, wasn't it? It said it's changing almost every day, every 24 hours. The best replacements for Son and Salah are switching all the time with injuries to Elise and so on. We've had that as well.
Yeah,
so
that was a massive shame. Elise, I think, was going to start creeping into a lot of teams, especially with Pens. He's fourth in this table as well. The only thing I will say is, and a lot of people were looking at Elise because he was cheaper. And there is going to be a point, I think, where we're going to have to start considering a cheaper midfielder. And I think, obviously, Elise was up there. I'm still looking at players like, I think people are going to hate this, but Garnacho's stats aren't looking too bad either.
Spot the man you found.
You look on this table. I know, and that's why some people are going to hate it. But you're going to have to be looking at a cheaper midfielder at some point. He's 4.8 million and he's nailed in that United team. And the fixtures are
It's
nice
a pretty good run for Man U, is it? Because I know Andy at Let's Talk was talking about... Fernandez, for example.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're third in the ticker. I mean, Sheffield United is second. You're not going to go near their players. Brighton are top. But Spurs, Wolves, West Ham, Villa, Luton, Fulham. It is a nice run for Man U. I mean, they're god-awful team, but,
It's that 25-26 that's the best. It's the key because you can get him in 25 to get some money out to get Salah, and then you've got him for 26, and both the fixtures you're getting him in for are really good, Fulham and Luton. So you'd probably start him in those two games. So you're getting a 4-8 enabler that you're going to start over those two games, and you need players for 26. So that's really in his favour.
Yeah, and you're right, Andy, because the money is. I mean, when I've been putting teams together, I've been looking at players around 5 million, like even like Douglas Luiz or Neto, who are like 5-6. That's sometimes too much because I haven't got much to play with. When I'm looking at Salah, Haaland, looking at kind of the expensive defenders as well, actually having a 4.8 and a whatever I paid for Palmer 5.2 massively helps if they can just keep chipping in with. I mean, Palmer's way exceeding just chipping in, but that's what Garnacho needs to do: chip in with the odd assist and the odd goal.
Exactly.
We've got a really nice slide here from. Do we call them slides? Call them screens. I think it's probably the better word. This is a year-on-year comparison between kind of the different players. So essentially, if a player's kind of got a minus and is in the green, it means their stats this year are better than they were last year. Mark, I believe all of this is per 90.
Yeah, well. So it's the key events per 90, shot in the box per. So for example, Douglas Luiz, his minutes per shot in the box are up 81% this season compared to last season. So it's kind of like an easy way to look at the players that have improved. Only because I think it's quite important sometimes. We put players in a box, don't we? We go, well, this player is this and this is what he's capable of. Well, obviously, it's a thing in football that players improve. Players get better as they mature as players, as they get to know their position, perhaps as they're settling in a team with teammates.
Unless you're Rashford or Martinelli.
Yes, in which case you're basically going completely the opposite direction. So I just thought it was a nice table just to refer to see if there's any players here that we should pick out to go, okay, so we need to redefine what they are. Look, Bowen's a very good case in point. His shots on target are up 69%. Minutes per shots on target, that is, not total shots on target. Minutes per are up 69% compared to last season, presumably because he's been told by Moyes, you need to think like a striker. You need to be shooting more often and concentrate on scoring us goals. We know this because Moyes has said it, right, that he's been... I think he said he's trying to manufacture Bowen into a central forward, and he said this quite early in the season. He was still playing him out wide, but now he's moved to the centre.
And he's done that successfully before with on Arnautovic, for example.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So even I think it's good to... Yeah, exactly. No, so it's good to just look at this and go, well, are there players here that are redefining what we thought they were? Eze, for example, look how in all areas he's improved on last season's stats. So he's a player that if we're not considering now, we should consider at some point, maybe next season, because he's on that trajectory. You love Eze, don't you, Andy?
I do. To be honest, I do love Eze, but obviously it's Elise as well. Like Elise's stats on this are just absolutely ridiculous. Like you think they're still under Hodgson at the moment, who's not the most inspiring of managers. And Eze and Elise are absolutely cleaning it up when they're playing, aren't they? But yeah, Elise is just ridiculous. Douglas Luiz is an interesting one because obviously penalties make such a massive difference there as well. But you think, you remember Milahojlovic, wasn't it, when he was Palace and he was just penalty takers. He took about 10 penalties in a year, didn't he? And Douglas Luiz is reminding me a lot of that, where we have to take on board the fact he is taking the penalties in that team at the moment. And obviously they're scoring a lot of goals, especially at home. So yeah, he's someone.
I like Luiz. I think a lot of people are put off him because they think of him as like a bit of a penalty merchant, and he's not the most exciting. But these stats do indicate, Mark, that he's being used in a more different role than he was last year. Shots in the box is up, shots on target, touches in the box is up nearly double per 90, and he's completely nailed. So when you're looking at like Richarlison's and everyone. And even Bailey, I mean, I know he's first choice at the moment, but that could always switch around if he decides to go with one of Diaby or Bailey, which you don't get that risk with Luiz. I think he's an unpopular pick because he's seen as like the casuals choice if you go for Luiz, but I like him. I'm considering him.
Yeah, there's no doubt he's offering more, isn't he? There's no question. But yeah, I mean, I think what else is interesting there is the decline of Martinelli, for example. Like his XGI in minutes per XGI are down 32%. So that we've seen with the eye test as well. Foden is interesting. He's up in some areas, but down in others. His minutes per expected assists and minutes per XG is down. But then you look in other areas like shots, he's up by 14%. So minutes per shot is up by 14%. So it's a mixed bag for Foden. But I guess what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 weeks is different gravy to perhaps what we saw earlier in the season. So he's perhaps on a trajectory where he's going to climb this table and his numbers are going to get even better. Odegaard's been a disappointment. You can see here, it's only down. Look at his minutes per shot are down 14%. Minutes per shot in the docks down 23%, and that's what we've seen, haven't we? We haven't seen him take shots, or in particular shots in dangerous areas, anywhere near as much as last season. So yeah, I think it's a useful table to just refer to. The KPIs on Fantasy Football Scout are much neglected, but I find them a really useful table to hit around this time in the season when we're at the halfway point, just to see if there's any trends.
And if you are interested in a Fantasy Football Scout membership, do check out the link in the description. And also, of course, check out the Scoutcast where you can see Andy, Seb, and Flappy J. What's his surname?
Flappy J?
J? Was it?
Flapjack?
Yeah.
Jack's not his surname.
Yeah, Flappy J. That works. Flapjack.
Don't call him Flappy J.
Flappy J.
No,
yeah.
he won't like that. I'm sure he won't. Maybe he will like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Scout just put an 18 rating on this stream, hasn't it?
Well, the Juice stream yesterday got decommissioned from monetization. I think mostly because of Steve-O.
Really?
But yeah, we're trying to avoid that. Just 2 other players I want to mention from this list as well. I mean, we've had a few people mentioning Neto in the chat. We haven't talked about him yet. I mean, he's up on every stat here: shots in the box, shot on target, touch in the box, chances created, expected assists, expected goals, and massively on expected goal involvement as well. He's now back. Wolves have scored in all but 2 games this season as well. Been absolutely amazing under O'Neill. You were talking about him last week, Mark, saying you were thinking of getting him. Are you still close to getting him?
He's right up there in that bracket, yeah. If I have to go down to a 5-6 player, but then maybe price shouldn't come into it. Maybe he's going to show over this period that he belies that price. Yeah, I like them. I mean, Wolves' fixtures aren't the best, but under O'Neill they are showing much more enterprise going forward. And obviously they're missing Wanglo. That's the thing. They've got that other forward. I can't remember his name now. It's going to take me about 6.28 seconds to come up with it.
There's only one of them. There's only one of them.
Fabio
there is only one, isn't there? So it's bloody obvious. That's right.
Wait another 7.5 seconds.
Oh, I thought it was quicker than that, Andy. Have you looked?
No, 7.48. Thank you very much. Yeah. You must mean Fraser, Nathan Fraser. Heard of him?
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I should have given you that one.
I'd have got him on Guess the Player. Yeah, exactly.
0.1% owned Nathan Fraser. Interesting that someone's gone for him, but yeah. Anyway,
probably Fraser.
Yeah, probably was. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, Neto looks good. I mean, he's in that kind of price bracket, isn't he? Alongside others, where there doesn't really seem like a really obvious option. I mean, Bailey is obviously. Mark's got him and looked kind of maybe the most exciting because Villa have got some great fixtures coming as well. But you can make a case for a lot of these players. I mean, just the other player I want to mention, he's a little bit more expensive, but he's Pascal Gross.
Yeah.
If you look at his stats as well, I mean, 60% more shots from Gross. That's really impressive. 30% more in the box.
60% increase in rate of shots.
In rate of shots, yeah. 50% on target, 50% more increase on target as well. Touching the box kind of around the same. Interestingly, the chances created, which is what he's kind of known for in the team, that's dropping. But it kind of indicates that he's getting more opportunities to get forward.
It's going up. It's up 28%.
Oh, well, there you go. You get that as well.
28%. Yeah,
you get that as well. Yeah.
So the only thing dropping is expected assists is down slightly. Minutes per expected assist down 6.2%.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at Bowen's. I was going down one down. I mean, I really like Gross. And these are the Brighton players that people are kind of looking at so far. I mean, obviously you've got Stupinan, who we've mentioned. You've got Groves, and then you've got João Pedro as well up top. And it's quite nice having like one player from each position. So if you're looking to make changes in, if you're looking to upgrade Archer, or if you're looking to get rid of Trent, or obviously if you're looking to get rid of Salah or Son, you've kind of got an option in each one. I mean, Andy, which one do you like out of the three of these? They're all pretty good picks though, aren't they?
It's Pedro.
Yeah.
It really it depends as well. And obviously, whatever minutes he gets, he seems to score and do well. And I actually prefer. I like a Stupinan because obviously we're looking at defenders at the moment, and Trent's injured, so that's an obvious move. But I think I'd want Pedro over Grosh. I really do. I think because of the penalties, that makes such a difference. And I think moving forward, it depends how you want to use that striker. And obviously, if you don't need him every week, I think it's fine. If you need him every week, it's obviously a little bit tougher because he's not going to play every game. But I mean, he seems essential in terms of the way that De Zerbi wants to play him. And he keeps talking about him all the time, saying, I want him to play. I want him to be this player. I want him to do this. And then the next week, obviously, he won't start him, or he'll bring him on for the last 30 minutes. But he's somebody I think he's just perfect to have on your bench or in your squad and play him in those weeks. And obviously, with the fixtures moving forward, I think you could do a lot worse than Pedro. But it's whether you would lose, a Solanke to get a Pedro in to free up funds, because you're not going to be losing Watkins, or you obviously need that other spot for Haaland. So it's whether you want him as your third striker, I guess.
I was talking about him on Juice yesterday, because it's very interesting what De Zerbi does with Pedro compared to Gross, for example.
Yeah.
João Pedro is like, it's treat him mean, keep him keen in a way with De Zerbi. Yeah. Like he speaks very negatively of him a lot of the time. He dropped him after the first game week for not pressing, even though he scored in that match. Yeah. He said in his last interview that he hadn't heard of him before he signed. It's kind of a lot of like kind of derogatory kind of things, but aimed with the sense of, I think, stoking a bit of a fire in him. That's what Nima said, and trying to get kind of the most out of him in that way. Whereas Gross is like the opposite. He's like the golden boy. He can do no wrong. He's the best player De Zerbi's ever worked with, and that kind of thing. It does worry me a bit about Pedro. At the moment, Pedro plays. We haven't got anyone else that can play on the left. But when Matoma and Adingra back, I think you're going to go straight back into that problem of, is he going to start? And I think he should start every game. He's our most talented player, and I do worry a bit that if he isn't used more, he might be looking for a way out in the summer.
Yeah. So, Mark, if you were De Zerbi, out of me and Az, who would be Grosh, the golden boy, and who would be Pedro, the treat him mean, keep him keen?
Well, Az would be Gross.
Yes. You're the bit on the side, Andy. You come in when he needs a thrill, but I'm Mr. Reliable.
When he feels like getting back into FPL mode, he calls me up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so fickle. There is an error in this table. Someone spotted the next four difficulties should be 9.61 on all three players. I did this table 2 minutes before we went on air, and I didn't drag the difficulty.
What XGI? What fixtures?
Oh, you've removed that. Very clever.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting. João Pedro, 36% goal involvement, and Gross has only got 27%. My perception is Pascal Gross has been involved in more goals than João Pedro, but clearly not. Obviously, it has to do when João Pedro's on the pitch. So when on the pitch, 36% of goals have gone through him, either scored or assisted. That's really strong, much stronger than I thought.
The key thing here is to look at the conversion though between Gross and Pedro. I mean, 9% for Gross. That's really low. He's underperformed, really, in terms of the goal involvements that he's got. I mean, he's creating lots of chances that aren't getting converted, and he's having chances of his own. But he's still got nine goal involvements this season, which is level with Pedro with more minutes. But that's good. He could hit close to 20 before the season's over.
Not as many as Elanga, but it's still quite good. Yeah.
How many's he got?
He's got 10.
Has he got 10? Oh.
He's got more than Rashford, Martial, and Højlund combined, probably.
There you go. Yeah. I like him all. I think I agree with Andy. I think Pedro is the one that I'd pick. I think with penalties as well, and the fact that you've got this short-term window where he's going to play, I think he's the really exciting option. But he's tougher for a lot of people to get to because exactly like you mentioned, if you've got Watkins, Solanke, and then your placeholder for Haaland, how do you get rid of him? And also, if you're selling Salah or Son, you've then got to use another transfer to move someone like Archer up in my case. And then you've got Trent injuries and other things. He's harder to get to unless, of course, you wildcard and bring him in, which it would obviously be. I think
this all makes sense.
I think Pedro is one of the first names you pick on the wildcard with the fixtures that Brighton have got.
When you come to play it in 6 or 7 game weeks time? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense.
Well, by then he's going to be out. He's going to be out of the team. You won't want him then.
Oh, that's the trigger.
That's
I see.
it.
Just to go back to your game week 1 lineup with João Pedro.
Oh yeah,
triple Brighton.
I was so full of optimism and excitement for the season to come, and then even 3 weeks in, we're watching Match of the Day, and Estepinion's on Mark's bench, and he's crying in the shed. Oh, take me back to those days.
Good times.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly really do think Brighton. There's a lot of investment in Brighton, obviously, but I do think it's for good reason. I think we're gonna come back stronger off this break. We finally got a really nice break. With the last game of this game week as well, we've even got the winter break to recover from, and it's well needed. Then you've got 3 great options in one option in every position. So yeah, it's a good time to invest.
Yeah,
I think. Just going back to midfielders quickly. Anyone else you want to mention on here, Mark?
Saka's interesting, I think, especially with this game week in mind. He's right up there, 0.71 XGI non-penalty per 90, and going back to the KPI data, he's improved in most areas, which is not what you'd expect, right? He certainly hasn't improved in terms of minutes per goal, of course, and that's what really matters. But over the last 6, and I think even in the last couple of games, he's had a lot of big chances. So I'm now, because Palmer has got the second leg of the Carabao Cup, and that's a game which Chelsea are now trailing in, I'm thinking that Palmer could get protected in the last 15, 20 minutes of the game of game week 21. So I'm now leaning towards Saka for the captaincy over Palmer. And let's face it, the data does support it. The eye test and the output certainly doesn't, but the data suggests that things will turn Saka's way and Arsenal's way as well. So, I think Saka's worth talking about in terms of the data at least.
So I'm seeing people buying him this week, and it's kind of like, he hasn't really done anything to warrant being... He's done anything to warrant being 60% owned. His points have been really poor. 1 goal, 1 assist over the last 6 game weeks for a player of his ability that's a really poor return, really, isn't it? But are we just kind of living in hope, Andy, that the points are going to come and it's going to turn around?
Yeah, and also it seems to have been for the last 10, 15 weeks that Arsenal have had really nice fixtures as well. They just don't seem to have bad fixtures for some reason. And obviously you're just not going to get rid of Saka, who's a pen taker, with those nice fixtures. It is interesting, the Saka-Palmer captaincy. I think this is the most interesting captaincy decision we've had for a while. I think I'm just kind of edging towards Palmer because I think he just plays every game now, doesn't he? He missed a sitter though this midweek. Do you see that one?
Yeah. The striker curse
of an absolute sitter. Yeah. The one person I wanted to mention, by the way, is the person top of the list is Jota. Obviously, with Salah out, is Jota going to be getting those games? I mean, he's comfortably top of or near the top of all of these underlying stats, and he's got a goal and an assist in the last 6 games with only 33 minutes.
Yeah, that's why he's top of this table. It's all skewed.
Exactly.
He needs to deliver tonight, though, doesn't he? Surely to
I don't think he is yet.
It's still 1-0 Fulham. I mean,
looks like Darwin's going to come on and save them.
Here we go. That's what we need. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. I don't know. He's a risk, Jota, but a sexy risk.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what we like, isn't it, as?
Yeah. Well, some people like Mr. Reliable. Nice.
That's what Mark goes
hands.
To me for. Exactly.
I go to Flappy J now.
Flappy J. So you've got Grosh in as, Pedro in me, and Flappy J is who? Milner?
He's Jota, isn't he? He's the.
No, he's Jota. He's Jota. Nice, Flappy Jota.
I like Jota as a player. I love him, always have done. And I'd love to be able to go with him with confidence. But sitting here right now, we don't know what his starts will be like, do we? That's the thing.
I just worry that he's too good as an impact sub.
Yeah.
And he's being brought on in the last minutes of games and changing games. And then he's given a start tonight. And I mean, I'm not watching the game. Obviously, I don't know what's happening. But the fact he hasn't scored or kind of and they're losing indicates that he's not having the same impact that he's had when he's been coming off the bench in the last few games.
But
I think Klopp loves him though.
He does.
Keeper.
Yeah.
All he has to do is run past a keeper and fall down, and he gets penalties.
Yeah.
So he's got points in the bag, hasn't he?
I mean, what is that first choice front three with Salah out? That's the big question. I mean, is it Darwin,
Darwin, Jota,
Diaz.
Darwin, Jota, Diaz.
Darwin, Jota,
Yeah.
Diaz? I mean, does Elliott not maybe feature into that conversation? Is Gakpo completely out of the equation?
I think that's the front three.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Darwin on pens, maybe McAllister, but I think I'm assuming Darwin on pens.
Yeah, I'm with Andy there. Yeah.
Okay, so well, I mean, if we're saying that Jota is first choice and it's going to be that three, lining up, then it's a gamble maybe worth taking, isn't it? At 7-7.
But they've got so many games, and he will rotate, and I just with Salah away, I don't think that front three are absolutely settled. So Jota will get, out of the next 5, he'll get 3 starts. Is that going to be enough? Could be. He's definitely good enough. But do you prefer that over Foden, who lightly plays? Well, he will play every game, and he lightly starts most of them in what we're defining as a good period of form for him. If De Bruyne had said, "Yeah, I'm raring to go. I can't wait to get, I can't wait to get involved," and we felt he was going to get a run of starts, then I'd be in a different place for Foden. But from what De Bruyne said, it makes me think Foden will start most games, which for me gives him the edge over Jota, particularly with Jota with the blank in 26, where City don't have that. So for me, Foden had the edge.
Is that Nigel in the background, Mark?
It is, yes. Yes.
Good. Okay. So just before we move off this onto teams, and God, I'm dreading that. This is a really nice chart that we have from FPL under the radar. So this is data taken from FBref, and it's accumulated XG. Game weeks 1 to 20. I really, really like this chart. I'd love to see some more charts from this for expected goal involvement and even things like shots or touching the ball. Like the more charts like this we can see, the better, because it really does break down the teams by players who are getting the highest
talismans, right?
Yeah, the talismans for the team, and it's really interesting when you look through it, because you look at teams like Man City and Bournemouth and Liverpool dominated by the players that you'd expect, Salah, Haaland and Solanke, and then you look at teams like Newcastle, where it's like Isak, Wilson, Gordon, Almiron. Look at Chelsea; it's being divided between Jackson, Palmer, even Fernandes as well. So you really do see where you're likely to get the big points. I mean, any surprises for you on here, Mark?
That's what.
No surprise. I guess the dominance of Solanke, Haaland, Salah is what we'd expect to see. Watkins as well. I'd have thought Watkins would be more dominant than he is. And I guess this is XG, not XGI. I'd like to see it for XGI. There's no real surprises. I mean, Chelsea. Jackson dominating the XG. He's not dominating the points and dominating the goals, is he? But he definitely has dominated XG, is what I'd expect. Bowen, I would have thought, would have a stronger lead over the rest. Kuna, obviously, because he's the only Wolves striker. But yeah, apart from that, it's a good graphic. I'd love to see this applied to XGI.
Look at Arsenal's though, with Saka, Jesus, Nketiah, Havertz, Odegaard, Trossard, Martinelli. They're all eating into that pie, aren't they? And it's Saka is the obvious choice and he's highest of this bracket, but I really thought we'd have more options from Arsenal this year. I thought Odegaard and Martinelli would be bigger factors for us. Jesus could have come into it. He's been really poor as well. So yeah, disappointing with that, and disappointing with Saka, who's the top. Any thoughts on this, Andy?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is that even though Nunes is second in Liverpool's, he's probably still top 5 out of all the players here.
Yeah. Which
is scary in terms of, I mean, you saw it against Newcastle, the amount of XG put up without scoring. He's just becoming a bit of a meme at this point, isn't he? So the fact we've now got Nunes, Jackson and Werner in the same league, the XG compared to actual conversion, is going to be... Stop it. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Nunes is just a scary player to own and a scary player not to own. He just falls into both brackets. I am very much looking. I don't know how you feel, Mark. I can't wait to get rid of him for Haaland. I'm like counting down the days.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he starts at Bournemouth, and then he's a little bit of a differential in that, and you just never know. He scored a cracking goal there in the Carabao, didn't he? So I don't know. I've got a lot of time for Darwin, but just not in my team.
Yeah, I want to see him do well. But I mean, Jackson is interesting. I mean, if Jackson could start, similar to Nunes, if he could start converting, he'd be a real factor for us. I think, given his stats.
I'm nowhere near as fond of Jackson as I am Darwin. I think Jackson's a very if you remember, Pochettino talked him up a lot after that Luton game. Talked about him being a player who could develop into
could be the best in the world. I think. He
went
that far.
I think for me, he lacks some of the fundamentals of a striker. I think Darwin has got more raw material than Jackson. Jackson, for me, he just makes some really odd decisions with his runs, and I think he's got a lot more to learn than Darwin. I think Darwin is just purely down to composure and finishing, which is obviously key. But I think Jackson's got, I watch him and he doesn't make the runs like a striker. He doesn't threaten in the most direct way like Darwin does. So I think, Werner he's very similar to Werner in a way, in that he's not as direct as you want from a centre forward. He likes to pull out wide, which is not surprising because Jackson's played out wide a lot of the time. So he's been a crazy player because early season everyone was on him, weren't they?
I know. I really thought he was gonna do well. I think the thing was I don't necessarily think he was bought to be first choice for Chelsea.
No,
it's only the injury to Nkunku and the other players they've had out that's pushed him forward, and he just hasn't really staked his claim, has he?
Yeah.
FPL Harry mentions Højlund as well. He's not even high on the XG list. I mean, he's missed quite a few games.
No one's passing to him, that's why.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to be disappointed with Højlund, haven't you, Andy, as a Man U fan?
No, I'm not disappointed with him. I said it, but Mark, when he signed, I remember doing the stream with Mark, and someone said, "What do you think of Højlund?" And we said, "Not this season. Like it would take this season to bed him in." And like Mark's just said there, no one's really passing to him either. We're not really playing to his strengths, I wouldn't say. So I think he's a great player. I think he's got all the attitude. I think he's got the right personality. I think he's going to do really well. Whether he does it with us, I don't know. But obviously we. I love him at the moment. It's just obviously not an FPL option because he's learning at the moment, and we've got to try and start playing towards his strengths rather than not.
Yeah. We should give a shout out to Under the Radar, by the way, because FPL Radar's part of that group, and they every week they do some great charts between them. And so keep an eye on their Twitter account and the stuff they produce because it's gold.
Yep. You two are going to need to stall for a bit because I need to do predictions.
Oh my God! Did you forget to do the predictions? Unbelievable. We'll bring them up and we'll talk through them at least. So,
I'm trying. You need to stall.
I see. So you haven't even done the. Oh dear, it is chaos, isn't it? We did say at the start of the show when he said, "Oh, this would be free form."
Well, you were so bloody late getting them to me. You've got them to me like a minute before we went live. I'm not taking full responsibility for this.
Deary me. So I don't know what to say really. I mean, we're going to look at your wild card. Are you going to come? Are we going to get to that point? Are you deliberately waiting until we've only got like 2 minutes left to bring it up?
That's what he did last time.
Yeah, exactly.
I really don't know if I'm gonna play it or not. And the trouble is when people say, "Oh, you're doing it for attention," that makes me want to play even more, and that's not a good way to play the game. There's no sense with that.
It's not optimal. It's
definitely not optimal at all. No. Hang on, one sec. Let's take a look at predictions then. Going forward. There you go.
Resize.
Just a little bit of a resize, but they're in. Have we got a garden centre game?
We'll have to pick it as we go, won't we? I think the first one's a contender. You can find a garden centre open.
I think there you go. Oh, there he is. I think it's an easy one, isn't it? Unless you've got Alfie Doty to play like you have, Mark.
That's one of the reasons I got him. Give me something to watch on Friday night. Yeah, it's a really big game, isn't it? And I've got to go for Alfie and a clean sheet. I do think that Burnley are the weaker side. Maybe not the weaker side player for player, but in terms of the way they play, Luton look like they've got fight in them. They've got a way of playing that's effective. Set pieces would be a real problem for Burnley. I think Luton will nick one and then Burnley won't break them down. So that's why I'm going 1-0 Luton.
We've all gone different results for that. Yeah. You've gone for a Burnley win in that.
Yeah, 1-0 home win. Of course it is. This is literally when they came up this year, they thought Luton at home is one of our 3 points guaranteed. So I think Luton away from home, 1-0 Burnley. Yeah, when Burnley play well, they're a really good team. They just don't play well that often, unfortunately, this season. So I think 1-0. I think Burnley will get this one.
It was interesting listening to Steve-O because he's a Burnley fan, and he was talking about, obviously, they had such success last season, set the record, was it, for the most points in a season, something like that.
He compared them to Barcelona.
Yeah, he did. He said they were the Barcelona of the Championship. But and he's annoyed because they haven't kept faith with the squad that got them up, and key players. I think you mentioned Muric, for example, haven't got a look in this season, and they've been massively underperforming. So it's almost like if you take last year, you'd expect Burnley to beat Luton. I'm not sure what the scores were, but Burnley won the league and were a better side. Whereas this year, it does feel like it's a bit closer. I just think it's one of those games, neither team can lose it. So I've gone for a bore draw in this. I think both teams will score. But not much in it. Chelsea, Fulham. Andy and I both gone for a 2-1 Chelsea. Yeah, Mark, I mean, you've gone for a 2-2, and they're giving Fulham giving Liverpool a game tonight.
Yeah, I just don't know what to expect from Chelsea. So, and Fulham have got goals in them with Jimenez back in the side. If they win tonight, it'd be an incredible result, wouldn't it? I guess they might rest players then for this game. Certainly rest minutes. Right? They'll get starts, but I'm sure they'll have at the end of the second leg in mind if they go into it 1-0 up. So maybe I'm going a bit generous here, but yeah, I just don't know what to get from Chelsea. When Chelsea fans very disgruntled, obviously after losing the Borough.
How can they lose to Middlesbrough? Middlesbrough had injuries as well going into that game. Like they were worried they were going to get absolutely hammered. To win that game to nil is. Yeah, it's not. I mean, how much time does Poch get? I mean, the results haven't been any better really than Potter's. They've had a couple of good wins. I mean, a good result against City as well, for example. But they're not a good side. They're not. I mean, the last 20 minutes of that Luton game, they could easily have blown a 3-goal lead in that match.
They've got good players, but they're not a good team.
No, I'm not impressed. He's going to have to turn things around in the second half of the season, or I think he's going to be out in the summer. I don't know who I'm not saying he should be, or I don't know who they'd get, but Bowley's not going to be happy with the amount of money.
Another call to Frank.
I know. Frank, oh my God. Yeah. Newcastle City, big game. This one, definitely not the Garden Centre game. We've all gone for the same score as well. We've all gone for a 2-1 City. They should have in too much, shouldn't they, for Newcastle? I mean, is Foden or Alvarez, are they a potential captain in this?
I think because I got Alvarez, and I think he's probably third behind Saka and Palmer for me, because I think Newcastle really are struggling in terms of keeping their squad fit and seeing out games. I mean, the XG against Liverpool was just absolutely ridiculous, but then they are at home this week, so I don't expect it to be a cricket score like it was, obviously, or it could have been, but I do expect City to win. I don't see a clean sheet for City, though. I don't really see a clean sheet for City much anymore, so I think 2-1 is. That's probably out of all the predictions I'm most confident on.
Yeah, a narrow kind of City win.
I think it'd be a good game because Newcastle at home are really tough to crack, and I think they'll go for it and cause City problems. I was encouraged by Newcastle's performance at Sunderland. I thought that was signs that they turned the corner. The Joe Linton injury would be a blow, though. I mean, I think he's absolutely pivotal to them. If he's in the side, they've got a chance of getting a point at least against City, I think.
I mean, they haven't had a lot of rest though, have they? I mean, that was they put out a full strength team in that game against Sunderland, and then obviously they've got the early fixture again. So it's after this they're then going to get the break. But you probably would have liked to be on the other side of things, right? Have this week to kind of rest and recover a bit, and then go into it. But they definitely up their game at home to the big teams. Everton Villa. This is an interesting one. Villa results haven't been that impressive for a while, but they're still kind of in and around the Champions League, even the title talk, some people are saying. I've gone for a 1-0 Villa, a very hopeful 1-0 with Martinez in goal. Mark, you've gone for a 3-2, so you've gone completely opposite way, an absolute thriller in this. And Andy, you've gone for a 2-1 Everton. Shows us this one's kind of a hard one to predict, right?
Yeah, I've always get surprised at how great Villa are at home and how they're not always so great away from home. And every week I'm like, why do I keep going for Villa to win away? So I've gone for Everton this week because Everton at home as well, like they can set up the stalls and do quite well. So I've gone for an Everton, home 2-1 win.
1-1 with Sheffield United a little while ago at home. Yeah,
for me, I just think neither defence I trust here. Everton have been erratic at Goodison Park and been better away from home. Yeah, you're right, though. The away form has been poor. I'll give you that. But, I just fancy a lot of goals in this game. I just think that it'll be open affair and Villa will edge it. But, good one. Not Garden Centre, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. I just want to say at this point, we've got 1,070 people watching live. 200 likes. So 1 in 5 of you watching.
Outrageous.
Outrageous. Let's see if we can get that to 50%. So do give us a like if you're enjoying the content.
It'll be the fumbling with the graphics that's done that.
We had 400 until I messed that up. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, do give us a like. If you're wondering as well why you can't comment, that's because you're not subscribed. Why on earth aren't you subscribed if you're listening to this? Do chuck us a subscribe on YouTube as well. And if you're listening on the podcast, we would love a review because we like reading the reviews on the podcast.
They're heartwarming.
They are. Well, the nice ones are. United Spurs. This is an interesting one as well. You've both gone for a 1-1, which is interesting. I think Spurs have got too much for Man U. At the moment, depending on how offside Richarlison decides to be in this game. But I think there's going to be goals in it. 1-1. I think both teams will concede. Could concede multiple ones. So yeah, I've gone for Spurs 3-1. Andy, you're the Man U expert. Board.
Yeah. 1-1 is me being optimistic, if I'm honest, because it could. I mean, if Spurs hit the ground running, then yeah, they could score quite a few against us. Obviously, Onana is going to be playing in the game, which whether that's a good thing or not, we're not sure. But obviously, I think that helps us. It's better than Bayindir, who apparently we have no confidence in whatsoever. We're keeping Onana for another.
That would explain Onana. Yeah,
right. Is he the only player that's allowed to?
Yeah, apparently.
That's weird, isn't it?
He's not even going to play the first game of AFCON. Apparently, he's going to miss that game to play one more Man United game because he's so worried about losing his spot. So yeah, I mean, I'm going 1-1.
I'm surprised he's not trying to jet back and forth.
I know, literally, it's mental.
He's going to drop a clanger, isn't he, against Spurs? Oh no,
God, yeah, and lose his spot anyway, and then not play AFCON. But yeah, so I've gone 1-1. I cannot see a world where Spurs don't score with what they've got, and I think I'm just being optimistic that I think it's going to be 1-1. Us at home, I don't think we're going to be awful, but yeah, I think 1-1.
I just worry about the relentless attacking of Spurs will. Yeah, I just don't know if United have the stomach for it. If there's an early goal, to be fair, against Villa, they came back, didn't they, from 2-0 down. I never in a million years. I remember listening to Evra talking about that game. And he was like, yeah, I'd be impressed with Man U. I think we'd have come back and win it. And I was watching my dad and I was like, what? It's been awful.
We've
really
had this for
game.
So long, though, where like managers will all of a sudden let the shackles off and we play some brilliant football. And it's like, where's this been? And then literally the next game, it goes back to, no, shackles on, take it easy.
Well, it did. You came to Forest and lost.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was completely different. That second half against Villa was one of the best halves I've seen us play all year. And then, we played against Forest, and was it Morgan Gibbs-White, wasn't it? It said, look at them. They don't want to play it.
Yeah.
They don't want to be
And he was right. He was, look
and
at
it's
their
exactly
faces,
that.
Yeah. I watched them in the warm-up, and they were like having a kickabout like it was a Sunday League game or something. I was like, what's going on? Why aren't they taking it seriously? It was really weird. It was
just not bothered, are they?
Strange team. Very strange team. Arsenal Palace, we're all kind of getting excited about our Arsenal assets again after their break. We've all gone for an Arsenal win here. 2-0, 3-0, 2-0, clean sheet. Saka, a couple of goals. Back on the radar, that's what we all want, isn't it? But they haven't been great. I mean, there's 2 really poor performances. I mean, when they lost to West Ham, I thought, surely the next... was it West Ham? Which was one? I can't remember which one was it first. They've lost...
Yeah, West Ham.
And then they lost to... It was the last game they lost.
Liverpool.
Was it Liverpool?
They just lost to Liverpool, but not in the league.
Who was in the league?
They lost to West Ham. They lost to...
Who was the one before that?
Shame we haven't got any Arsenal players.
There's going to be people.
This is why we get the likes.
Fulham.
This is why we get the likes.
Because they had the game against West Ham where they were really bad in that match, and then it was like, okay, now they're going to get a kick up the arse from Arteta. No, 2-1 to Fulham. That's a really bad result for them.
Just couldn't break them down, did they? It's the cutting edge that they're lacking. They're creating chances, but they're not. Yeah, they're just not taking them with them. But I just think that's got to change. I mean, the XG data shows that they should have scored a lot more goals in the last couple of games, and I think that it will come good against Palace. I think Arteta, with time on the training pitch, he'll work it out. He's got the players. I think he can. I think he can get a good result against Palace and kick on.
Yep. And then, I mean, Steve-O's tipping Nottingham Forest for Europe, Mark. I don't know if you saw that.
Is he?
Under Nuno, yeah. He says you're going to kick on and then get a top 6 spot. I think that's maybe a little bit optimistic.
Very. Yeah.
Is Brentford next? Brentford with Ivan Toney back. He's got a hat-trick for the under-21s as well, but they have been really poor this season so far. But yeah, I mean, Mark, you're the Forest fan. You've gone for a draw in this. We've all gone for a draw in this. I've gone for a 2-2. You've both gone for a 1-1.
Yeah, well, we'll have no Elanga. I think that's a big problem. I don't see us. I think we take a point. I think Brentford are playing poorly. Tony's going to take time, surely, to sell. I mean, to go Tony straight away, you'd have to be mad, I think, or playing a wild card, one or the other, or both, maybe. I'll take a point. I think it'd be a very poor game, put it that way. If you didn't go to the Garden Centre on Friday, you can definitely go the following Saturday at 5:30.
I've gone for 4 goals in this, so I'm not going to give it the the Garden Centre logo. I mean, I think the next game is got to be a contender, isn't it, for Garden Centre? Sheffield United versus West Ham. West Ham potentially with no Bowen or Paqueta.
Not going to be attractive, is it?
Oh God! I mean, I've gone for a draw, a 1-1. Mark's gone for a Sheffield United. In fact, you've both gone for a Sheffield United win in this one. Is that just down to the injuries, Andy?
Yes, literally. Yeah, even then I thought West Ham scoring could be a tough shout, but obviously you've still got Ward-Prowse who can maybe whack a free kick in. So I've gone 2-1. I mean, West Ham literally have no attacking options, I don't think, in this game, do they? So I think Sheffield United might take him, to be perfectly honest. I think this is the perfect time to play West Ham. I also look at West Ham, and they are the team I'm expecting to drop a lot second half of the season. I feel like they've overperformed so much already, and I've never once watched them and thought, oh yeah, no, I see why they're doing so well this season. So I feel like they're going to drop, and I feel like this could be a game where Sheffield United take it personally.
They're very good at catching teams out who aren't really expecting. I mean, West Ham, Brighton, for example, earlier in the season. I think they did it with Arsenal really effectively as well. And when they've got, like Mark said earlier, when they've got the players like Paqueta threading the balls and Kudus and Bowen with the speed and pace they've got to beat, high lines and offside traps and things, then they can be really effective. But I know they didn't have Paqueta or Kudus in that game, but I was really impressed with how Brighton managed that game with them. And I think I agree with you. I know they've got an effective strategy, but just don't get countered on. Just stop that from happening, and they're going to find it hard. I mean, they've got Ward-Prowse who can obviously help with the dead balls and set pieces and things, but I don't know. I don't think they're an amazing team. They're not. I don't think they're a top 6, top 8 team. They're a sort of 10 to 12.
Yeah, they're fine. They're fine. They're not going to get dragged into anything. They have a way of playing against teams who like possession that's really effective, and they've got players who take chances, but. Yeah, they're not great to watch. And they've been on telly a lot.
Yeah, I know. Every bloody week over Christmas, Bournemouth-Liverpool is next. We've all gone for a Liverpool win in this one. Obviously, Liverpool without Salah, without Trent, the 2 most creative players they've got in the team. Losing to Fulham tonight. Bournemouth have been good as well. I mean, they lost to Spurs, but they had enough chances, I think, to have definitely got at least a point in that match. But we're all still backing Liverpool to do the damage, Mark.
Yeah, Nunes is on now, by the way.
Come on, Nunes.
Yeah, I think that they'll find a way against Bournemouth. But, obviously tonight's result, and I need to see the performance, has maybe dented my confidence in Liverpool. Because we wanted to see what they were going to do without their 2 most creative players, Salah and Trent. And what they're doing is not being able to break down a Fulham team. So do they score 2 at Bournemouth? Maybe not. So maybe I'm wrong here. But I'd like to think Liverpool will find a way here. For the sake of the title race, I'd want them to.
A Rabona cross from Raul Jimenez. The showboating would have looked great if it had come off. Instead, the ball goes harmlessly behind for a goal kick.
He's left looking a bit silly.
I can picture it. Yeah, you read it as well, yeah. And then final game, obviously the biggest game of the week. Wait until Monday the 22nd of January for this one. Definitely not the Garden Centre. This is going to be a really exciting game, no matter what players you own in it. Mark's gone for a draw. I've gone for a 3-1 and Andy's gone for a 2-1. We have a really good record against Wolves. We beat them 6-0 last season as well. We dominated them earlier in the season. This year, obviously, they didn't have O'Neill then. I think we'll have too much for Wolves, personally.
No clean sheet, as?
No.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah.
Wolves just score, don't they? They find a way to score.
So when are these clean sheets coming in?
Yeah, exactly.
Luton and Palace.
Oh, those 2. Yeah.
You don't just buy Stupinan for his clean sheets, though.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be a bit of miss not to recognise that Wolves have been really good from an attacking standpoint. But yeah, I think we have enough for minutes, and I think Gross, Stupinan, and Pedro are really, really strong options this week. Potential captains as well for Pedro, as well, because it's not really a standout, is there? I mean, we can look at the captains data. And we looked at the captains data last week, but there's not really anyone that massively stands out in this. I mean, Palmer, I think, is the obvious move. Palmer or Saka, they're the 2 kind of obvious ones, but they've still got their drawbacks. Arsenal not being great, and Saka being off the boil, and Palmer and Chelsea generally not being the best team. So then do you take the punt? Do you go for someone like Jota or Richarlison, who've got like good numbers? Do you risk it on a Foden, who's obviously been playing really well, like his form's really high? There's a potential, isn't there, to shake it up a bit?
I don't know whether there is. I don't know whether there is. I think, like I said, I think Alvarez is quite a distant third for me, and obviously you've got Saka and Palmer, who I think are easily the best two. I don't really see where else other people are going, if I'm perfectly honest. Like, unless people really fancy Spurs to kind of do in United, which they could do, but at Old Trafford, I think it's maybe a tough ask. But yeah, I mean, the other one is if you really do fancy Liverpool, if you fancy putting it on like on a Darwin. Because Darwin, if he is on penalties, which we might see, you never know, in the last 20 odd minutes, we might see that they get a penalty, and if he's on them, then people might fancy that against Bournemouth away. But yeah, I think Palmer and Saka are easily the top two for me, easily.
It's going to be an interesting week for effective ownership, though, isn't it, on the captaincy? So I think it's a good thing, and nothing wrong with rolling the dice. Because I don't, Palmer's just got 18 points, so maybe there will be a big gap between the options, but. You look at it and think there's those top two, but then it's close between the rest of the field. And if you may not have Saka, you may not have Palmer. So we'll see a lot of difference across the board, I think.
I mean, this is your team, Mark. You've got Saka captained at the moment.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with that just because of the Chelsea result in the Carabao Cup, which means that they'll have one eye on that. It's got to matter to Pochettino. You said yourself that his confidence waning in the manager. He'll look at it and think, well, if I can get to a final and even win a trophy, that'll be seen as a progress. Well, it won't be, but he'll maybe define it as something like that. So I think, bizarrely, he'll perhaps have one eye on that second leg and prioritise that. And when it comes, if Palmer, if they go 1-0 up, Palmer gets an assist, and they go 2-0 up, and he doesn't play a part in that goal, maybe he's off with 10, 15 minutes to go, and you don't want that, right? Whereas Saka, he's on to the death, isn't he? So. Yeah.
Literally,
I just prefer Saka. I just think X-Mins will be higher, and I think it's close between them. They've both got pens. They're both talisman. They're both pivotal. But I think the X-Mins just gives it to Saka for me.
Does the early fixture sway you a little bit? I was going to say, I mean, you look pretty good, I have to say, Mark. Your team looks nice. You've got obviously Trippier on the bench as a decent option. You can hold Salah. Your team, for anyone listening, is Dubravka, Gabriel, Porro. Doherty's come in for Trent. Bailey, Saka, Palmer, Foden, who's also come in. That's your two transfers this week. Watkins, Darwin, and Solanke. And this gives you the money to do Darwin to Haaland.
Yeah, I've got 6-9 in the bank, so I just go Darwin to Haaland in one if he's back, which we don't know. Yeah.
That is a lot better than how my team's looking, which is a shame. Andy, this is your team. Talk us through it. No,
that's definitely not my team.
You wish that was your team.
I wish that was my team.
Oh, he's fumbling around with the graphics again, Andy.
I'm not going to lie. When he brought it up, I was like, "Oh, that looks better than I remember."
Is this?
Maybe he's been
as
hacked.
bad as I thought. That's my team. That's my
team.
Yeah, so I've got Dubravka in goal, Saliba. No, that's not. What? That's from ages ago.
Yeah, I thought it was as well.
Oh, what is going on?
I've still got Simicast.
Oh, dear, that's the FCA's out the window again for another year.
Well, we had no chance of that anyway. Hang on.
Oh, vote for Juice, please.
Yeah. I might go on Juice next week, lads. Sorry.
You should do.
More professional.
If they love you, if they love you in the studio.
Here it is.
There you go.
Right. So I got Areola in goal. I got Saliba, Mitchell, Porro, and Taylor. Podro. And Taylor. And Taylor looks like he most likely won't be playing. He wasn't spotted in training pictures, which is so annoying because Luton at home is an all right fixture. Then I've got Richarlison, Palmer, captain Saka, and then I've got Alvarez, Solanke, and Watkins up top with Salah, Trent, and Son on my bench. So at the moment, I've still got my one free transfer, and it's probably going to be Son to Foden. And then I've still got I can still do my move to get Haaland next week if I want to. I could take Trent out and obviously actually get a defender because this is going to be with no bench. And obviously we've got a long time before the second lot of fixtures. But Foden's most probably coming in because I want him for the double, and I want Alvarez, Foden, and Haaland for the double when I get there. So that kind of makes sense to do that move. So yeah, we'll see. It's not looking great this week.
You look rough. You look rough this week.
My team too.
Yeah.
It's all right. I don't think that's that bad. I mean, Areola could get something at Sheffield United, and Saliba. Mitchell's obviously dodgy, and you got Taylor's not going to play for you. But yeah, just get through it, I think.
You say Mitchell. I mean, Arsenal can't score for toffee at the moment, can they? So you never know. Mitchell could get me a clean sheet and a goal. He's done it before, lads.
Yes. That pains me. Where does it leave you for Haaland then? Does that give you the money to do it next week?
So no, I would still be needing to. So what is it? Son out. I can't remember what it is. I've sorted it out and it's fine. It's Solanke that I'd be getting rid of to go up to Haaland. But obviously, if I get rid of Trent, then I've got more.
So you can do Son down. You can't do Son to Foden and Solanke to Haaland.
No, I can do Son to Foden. Hang on, I was working this out earlier.
Salah's going, basically.
Salah's got to go, surely.
Yeah. Salah would be going, and I'd have to get Salah back in 25. But
see, that's where this is what is making me think the wildcard isn't as bad an option as people are saying, because this is because this is -4s all over the place. -4 to get Haaland back, and -4 to get Salah back.
But we're going to be beating you by like 20, 30 points after the blank. So
I hope it's only that. It's about 100 at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. No, not like that. No, I meant in that week. Yeah. So So I mean, originally I was looking at getting Paquetá or Elise in for Son, because I wanted a cheaper midfielder, so I could obviously get back up to Haaland easier. But I think Foden's the play. And then, I mean, Haaland. If Haaland's going to be everything we expect him to be when he comes back, he's worth a hit to get him back in.
But surely Alvarez is going to be a problem for you when Haaland's back, because Haaland's going to take Alvarez's place.
No, Alvarez will play behind Haaland and KDB. I mean, KDB's not.
So where does Foden play? Saying Foden goes back to the right.
Well, potentially. I still think Alvarez is going to be playing, because I cannot see KDB playing as much as we expect him to be playing. And obviously, I'm not thinking till the end of the season. I'm thinking to the blank in game week 26, and then that's probably it, isn't it? So I'm not going to be holding triple city attack till the end of the season. It will be until 26, most probably.
I'm not. I mean, we're going to talk about chip chat in a second, but I am surprised that you're so quick to discredit the wild card this week with this team. Go on.
I'm going to have to take a break because I can't risk looking at your wild card without going to the toilet first. So I'm going to have to go because I might be laughing so much. So I'll be back in a minute.
That's what the people want.
This stream gets even more professional by the minute, doesn't it?
Literal stream going on. That's really, I think this is.
Seen a bit.
I think this is the first time Mark has taken a toilet break in the 4 years we've done BlackBox.
Oh, bless him.
I know. He's getting old. I was going to say,
Needs to check his prostate. That's probably what he's going to do.
I mean, we've got the wild card. This is the chip strategy to talk about. Mark kind of put this together for us. But it's interesting that your mentioning of the chip strategy falls in line with these, right? So, I mean, when are you thinking about chips being played then? Obviously, you're not thinking about using them this week. So, what you're thinking of using it a bit later on down the line?
I mean, 25 could be the time to use triple captain, I think that could be very, very tempting for a lot of people with those nice fixtures for Liverpool and City. So whether you put it on a Haaland or a Salah, whoever it is, and then after 29, so dead end in the 29, then wildcard in 30, and then those big double game weeks coming up in 33, 34, 35, 37, whatever it is. The big one, I think, would be bench boosting either 34 or 37, because they're usually the bigger ones, aren't they? So it's bench boosting one of those. I usually quite like bench boosting earlier, because then it's out of the way.
Me too.
And then, you do a lot. It's free hits, the big one. I'm not sure what to do with a free hit yet, so I think I'm just going to keep that in there and see where I think about using it. But
it would be nice for me, for example, to use my free hit when people are bench boosting potentially, because maybe I can try and catch some of the better players. Rather than loading up on killing my team with a load of average players, because that's what you need to do with the bench. Just make sure you've got some players. It's really although like I wish I had it. It is interesting because I do approach this in a different way. Obviously, I just don't have that to worry about in this. So if you look at strategy 3 and strategy 4 on this, that's obviously based around playing the wildcards right close to the bench boost. for example, to try and maximise the gains that you can get from that. I mean, strategy one is the one that we were talking about earlier, which is a wild card either in 30 or 31, and then free hitting in 34 when there's a double game week going on, and then obviously playing the bench boost in 37 as well. So, I mean, a lot of these strategies involve the wild card being played in 30 and 31. So in what about 8 or 9 game weeks time.
And even that, the biggest thing about obviously playing it in 30 is the fact that you can dead end into the blank game week and then obviously wildcard out of it. But also, I'm not a massive fan of wildcarding and then obviously using the bench boost quite a few weeks after, because obviously you're planning for that bench boost, aren't you? So ideally, it would be great if you could wildcard in 32 and then you've got 33 where you're going to maybe bench boost with a double game week, and then 34 where it's the big one if you free hit, whatever it is.
Yep.
But even just from wildcarding in 30 and then waiting till 33 when you could bench boost, 34 when you could bench boost, a lot can happen in 4 weeks, and all of a sudden that bench boost isn't what you think it is, or you're having to keep players that you don't want to keep just because you need them for a bench boost. So there's little ways of looking at it, but I think triple captain in 25 could be very, very popular. You've got the 2 best teams in the league with a double game week. Yeah,
we're going to see people free hitting in 26 though, if Chelsea and Liverpool make it. I mean, Liverpool have turned it round now. Darwin 2 assists, 2-1 up against Fulham. We're still expecting Chelsea, I think, to go through, even though Middlesbrough have the lead on that. And I mean, then we're going to see Spurs missing out, Liverpool, Chelsea, Luton. So there's going to be teams with 7. I'd imagine 7 players. Could be 7 or 8 players missing from that.
Is that worth a free hit though? The players that everybody own is not going to be playing. Like I've got into blank game weeks before with only 5 players. Funny enough, it was when Milahojlovic was my captain and got loads of points. Actually.
I actually really like a free hit in a blank game because it lets you get in. I remember I did it a few years ago for I forgot Cenk Tosin, if you remember him. Yeah. No, Tosin, sorry, from Everton, and then I had Van Aanholt came in, nice, and they went ballistic. It completely turned my season around because no one had them. Yeah. So the free hit let me attack players which had like 0.5% ownership and get them in. And then a lot of people just try to ride it out to use it. But actually for my situation, it worked really well. So it can be effective. It's just not, like you say, it's not as exciting as free hitting potentially into a double, is it? When you can get 6 or 7 players, which I've also had success with. A few years ago, I had the likes of Havertz and James and people who I didn't have in my team, but I was able to bring in for that 1 week. Oh, no, there's lots of different strategies to go. I mean, none of the chip strategies on this take into account wildcarding in game going into 21.
No, exactly.
That hasn't even been mentioned, Mark. Not even.
Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have those 15 pints. 15 pints of athletic greens I've had. It's terrible. Shocking.
Hey, they're not playing us yet. We can't have.
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
God.
Yeah,
I got confused then.
Sorry.
I didn't think you said athletic greens. I thought you said, what is it? Is it Hoyland greens or Coyland greens? What's that one where it's humans, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
It's that horror story, isn't it? Where it's like, someone in the chat will say, I can't remember.
Okay, fine. Delirious at this point.
Why doesn't this table go up to 21?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's crazy. I think it should definitely feature someone who's accidentally used their bench boost in game week like 5 and is thinking of wildcarding in 21. Why wouldn't you include that on this, Mark?
Yeah, I think this is basically the strat 1 is the preferred. It's what the kids are all doing basically.
Yeah.
But it's very early days, so we've got to wait for the FA Cup results and obviously the Carabao Cup results initially and the FA Cup results, and then round 5 will be the key, and that appears that's not going to be for some weeks. So more information is going to be vital to our chip strategy. But right now, strat 1, triple captain in 25, wild card in either 30 or 31 because of the fixture swings. Use your free hit to aggressively attack a double game week and preferably 34 because the fixtures should be better in that week. And then your bench boost in 37, which is why I said earlier about bench boost being probably pretty disposable. You could throw it away willy-nilly. But I mean, as I say, early days yet. So we're going to look at this week in, week out now from now on. It's Krellin time, like we said, and chip strategy comes into it.
Yeah. I mean, the issue with wildcarding, as Andy said, in particularly 30 or 31, is then you've got a long wait until the 37 bench boost. So you've got to kind of stack your team up with players and then...
But you're doing it because you're dead ending into 29
Oh,
we've lost you, Mark.
We've lost you. And your connection's been a bit dodgy since you got back from your Soylent Green. Yeah, sounds completely.
Yeah,
dumb.
Soylent Green. Thank you, by the way, people in the chat.
What is Soylent
Green
Green? I still don't know what it is.
It's the film, it's the book, isn't it, where they feed Soylent Green to loads of people, and it turns out that Soylent Green is people.
Oh, what is it? Like a new?
Look it up. I can't remember what it's from. Yeah.
You back with us, Mark? Take that as a no.
I lost
There he
sound.
is.
Sorry about that.
He's
Yeah,
back.
sorry.
There you go.
Cliffy just crashed on me. So
You're back.
There you go. I'm back now.
Yeah, you've got a bit of like a kind of a loose connection type glow about your sound at the moment, but
Yeah, okay.
it's not too
Yeah, I
bad.
come back. My internet dropped
Yeah.
briefly, but
Weird.
I'm back. I'm back now. Hopefully.
the Soylent Green. That's a joke I just made. That's not what it is. Don't know if that joke makes sense, but done it anyway.
I was going to say.
Let's take a look at my team then. So this is where I'm at the moment. I've made a transfer.
Oof.
Yeah, made a transfer. I've got Martinez in goal with Porro, Gabriel, and Estupinan. I've got Palmer, Saka, Foden, Archers up top with Watkins and Darwin. I feel a bit better about Darwin now because he's got 2 assists and has actually changed the game, Mark. I don't know if you saw
I know.
that. Yeah, which is nice. And then I've got Trent, Son, and Kabore. Really needed him this week. Didn't realise he was going off to AFCON, but yeah. I mean, it's not great. I mean, it's going to be a hit if I don't pull the trigger on the wild card. It's going to be Salah out for Gross. That's the move that I'm thinking of making. It's then, do I take a -8 and do Archer up to Pedro as well? The trouble with either of those moves is it doesn't give me the money to do Darwin to Haaland. So, I mean, I could do Son to Gross or do something else, but I'm in a bit of trouble really because I need to move Salah down to a Douglas Luiz or a Neto if I want to do the Darwin up to Haaland move.
Is that how far you've got to go?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. Because I've got Trent on the bench.
What's your team value?
Not good. It's well, I mean, it's 103.6. It's not like crazily low.
Okay. Yeah.
But this team is exact funds. So if I do Salah down to Gross, for example, that gives me 13.8 in the bank. And guess how much Haaland is? 13.9. So it's do I kind of do I just do Gross and then take another hit next week, and then I could do Son to whoever and then Haaland up. So take a -8 over 2 weeks. But it just feels like there's a lot of hits just to be getting to a point in which a lot of people are. And maybe that's where the wild, and that's still playing Archer. I still got Archer in the side too. So like I'm really not in a good position.
I can
with this team.
I can see it now. Why you're tempted by the wild? I'd still take the hit. I'd still do it.
Thing is, though, yeah, exactly. Like, you're not going to be in a good position after the blank game week either. That's the other thing. Like, yes, you're looking at it thinking this isn't ideal now, but it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be worse after 29. And obviously, you've got to go through 29 and then navigate. You've got to be so well planned over that fixture period. I don't know.
And what do you know now to play the wild card? There's so much info to come in terms of who's going to likely double later on that you'll be wasting that opportunity.
I'll show you the wild card. I mean, the reason I like playing the wild card, and this pains me to say, but I really like the setup Mark's got with Salah on the bench to come back and not have to worry, because people were going to be clamouring for him in 2025.
Why do you want Mark's team?
Oh, I see. Because he's having a good season, annoyingly. So I mean, the wildcard team I put together would go into that kind of model, which would have Salah on the bench ready to come in, and then a team of players around that could come in. So the team I put together would be Raya in goal, which I know people have got their things about it, but I mean, we're all sticking with Gabriel and Saliba. They're not exactly giving much attacking threat too, so it's a way of covering Arsenal's defence. Estupinan, Doty, Porro, Botman for the Newcastle run after the Villa game, which looks good. No way I can afford Trippier, so do I want to tap into that? And then just Branthwaite as a cheap kind of enabler. Saka, Gross, Palmer, Foden with Salah on the bench. And then get Pedro, Watkins. And then, I mean, I've got Tony in, but like that's just a 1 week, because next week it's going to be Haaland. That's the money in the bank to do whoever that forward is up to Haaland. And looking at the strikers, if you've got Pedro, I think Tony probably is the best punt this week because it's a home game against Forest and he's back. And I mean, it could be a disaster, but it could also be something That works out quite well. So I don't know. There you go. That's the wild card.
Yeah, a lot of eggs in the Brighton basket, and just for me, it's like you're playing the wildcard at a time where we know there's some key information to come in the coming weeks, and it's like Andy's been saying all night, several times. You're going to really be struggling when it comes to the blanks then, because but I don't think you'll play it. I think what you'll do is you'll make all those transfers and forget to play the wild card, and you'll take a minus 36 just for the interaction.
Or free hit activated by accident. And I get all the bloody idiots back next game.
You can't fool us.
Attention seeking again. Now, the other thing is, I don't know how many points behind you're going to be the average this week, even with all your flags and stuff. How many points behind are you really going to be? Like, how many points away from your safety score are you going to be?
I think
compared to the information and using the wild card later. That's my biggest thing. I just don't see it this week. I think you can do all right even with a -4.
Well, people hate the wild card, predictably, in the chat, because it's something no one's doing, and everything gets a lot of hate when people aren't doing it. But I do think there is a point of which, if you're selling Salah this week to get Haaland, it is difficult to have a plan to get him back for 25. I think people aren't quite realising that, to the point in which they're focusing too much on getting Haaland back. Because if Liverpool have a double and Salah's back, and you've got to take a -8 potentially to bring him back in, that is a massive problem. But then I guess you could wildcard at that stage, but then I've already taken the -8 to get into that position to wildcard in 12. I basically just don't want to be in a position in 25 where I have to play the wildcard chip to bring Salah back.
You'd rather play it now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, just look at the team. Like the team is it's a shambles.
I mean, I don't think it's that bad. You take the -4 for what? Son to who? Was it Gross, you said?
Yeah, it would be Son to Gross this week, yeah.
I don't think that's that bad.
And then next week it would be Darwin and Salah out.
Archer's not great, because he might not even play. But because obviously Barrett and Diaz will probably come in. But I still don't think that's that bad.
I mean, I could just do the -8 this week and just do Son and Archer out to Pedro and Gross and target those Brighton fixtures. But then I've still got to take the hit next week for Haaland.
I don't think you need the -8. You've got the two best captaincy choices. You've got, obviously, Archer's not great, but he could still get you a point or two. Personally, but it's me. But then you could play your wild card, and it could be the best thing you've done all season. But
yeah, right.
It could be just like the last one.
For attention, you mean? Best thing he's done for attention all season. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a predictable response that I got. I mean, the advantage of the wildcard, which everyone hates, would be to load up on Brighton ahead of their really good fixture run, to have Salah in place and not have to worry about him in kind of 24 and 25 going into that. And be able to get Haaland without any hits. That's the reason to play. It would save me. It's probably going to save me -8 in hits. It gets me a better team for this week, and it has Salah in place for 24, 25. So I don't think it's like it's getting a lot of hate, and I think there is a strategy to it, and I think there are going to be people that are wildcarded because they see the flags in the team. I mean, there's teams that are worse than mine. If you had this, but you had like a Bowen instead of Foden, for example, and it's a really rough week.
Yeah,
I was looking through one of my mini leagues earlier, and one team has 8 flags.
Yeah,
and it's like 7 reds and 1 yellow.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot out there because people still have like Hwang, and people still obviously have Son and Salah and Trent and Bowen, and it is, and Elise I think was in there as well. And you just see, it is quite bad for a lot of players. But that's where I think, because so many people are in the same boat, don't panic too much and just think, actually, it's like having one flag because most people have.
But isn't the flip side of that you can do something about your team and potentially get points and move ahead of people? Like at a time when I'm 1.5 million in the world, I don't want to just have a load of flags and crap players in my team when there's an opportunity potentially to bring in players who might do well that people aren't going to get over the next few weeks and not have to take hits to get them.
I guess it's like we were saying, is how much more above the safety score are you going to be playing this team compared to, in those future double game weeks, and that's always going to be the biggest thing. But then there are always people that wildcard a little bit earlier or do it in different times, and they reap the benefits because they've obviously got somewhere else. If you can get triple Brighton in and they absolutely smash it in the next 3-4 weeks, then you're loving life. That's the biggest thing, I guess, is if you get the triple Brighton and they do really well. Apart from that, if you go back to it, where else are you getting the points that no one else is getting? Because triple Brighton's the biggest one, isn't it? Everybody's going to have Saka, Palmer, Watkins. Tony. If Tony comes back in and does really well, I think that's a gamble. A lot of people.
He's more of just a kind of a fun 1 week punt, isn't it?
I suppose the biggest thing is that you're having to bench Salah, because obviously you could use that Salah money to get some other interesting players in, couldn't you? But
yeah, but I mean, say I sold Salah this week. I mean, who would you bench out of that lot then?
Palmer.
Yeah,
easy.
Yeah, no, I do get the sides. Obviously, the wild card is the most valuable chip we've got. Obviously, there's big draws to playing it a bit later on, but I do think there is always an element of individual timing of them that people discredit. People get so locked into playing wildcards in certain weeks and maybe discredit it in weeks when it could actually benefit them. And maybe it's not the best week to do it. I'm on the fence. I'm not sure I'm going to do it. I think the Darwin. I was worried about Darwin before this game as well, because I thought if I've got to go into this and Archer's benched and Darwin's benched and then it's an issue. But the fact he's come on, done well, I think probably gives him one more week against Bournemouth to play in that match. So then it's really only Archer who's a problem. But I mean, does he even start with Diaz there? I don't even know. But
I mean, also I should apologise. I'm assuming that the template looks like this in the top 1 million, whereas I don't know what the template looks like at your rank house. So it could be you could be in the top 1 million.
You'd think worse, wouldn't you? But yeah, it's really hard to get out of this zone because there's so many people, you have a bad week and you just end up right back to where you were 3 or 4 weeks ago. You're not losing. I have a bad week and I'm not going down 30,000-40,000 places. I'm going down like 800,000 places. It's brutal.
No.
It's a brutal.
Well, this should be
your
your time. Salah and Son obviously going, and Trent going as well. This should be your time to climb.
Yeah. I implore you to watch Planet FPL and listen to James
before I make the decision,
going through the strategies, because that will help a lot, I think, in terms of identifying why you might need the chip later on. But I do see a case for what you're doing, but I personally would just take the hit this week. Okay, it's going to be hard to get Salah back, of course, but you're going to be one of millions of managers in that situation, right? There's going to be 80-90% of the active managers will probably sell Salah during this spell because it's the way to get Haaland back. So
Son to Gross, play Archer.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you, Andy? Do you not agree?
No, I do. I'm looking at Az thinking, I don't care what you think. I'm going to do what I want.
No, exactly. That's exactly why I said what I said, because I know he'd just go against that now. So
exactly. He's like an unruly child, isn't he?
I don't think I'm going to do it. When we talked about the team last time, and I think I was getting stick on that. I was like, Az isn't going to do it. I was already bloody done it. I'm still getting stick for being an attention seeker. But I'm pretty open with this stuff. It is something I'm genuinely considering because I've got 4 flags and Archer and Darwin. Yes, of course I'm having a midlife crisis.
Mid-season crisis.
Mid-season crisis. 1.5 million in the world. It's awful. Anyway, that's it. I can't believe we've done 2 hours and 12 minutes. I honestly thought this was going to be a really short stream, but we've said that a million times before, and it hasn't been. Thanks everyone for watching. We've had like 1,200 people watching throughout the thing. And
during a game as well, which is crazy.
Football one as well. Which is great. So thank you everyone for watching. Do like and subscribe if you haven't already. Do check out Andy on the Scoutcast. Andy, you're back with late tackle. You two are back with late tackle next week, are you?
Next week, I think we'll do one, Andy. Right?
What, midweek? Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
As in mid game week. Yeah.
Yeah, mid game week. Let's do because we can't get one in this week because we're the timing of it. But let's do one next week. Yeah. Let's try to anyway.
Lovely. Mark, any words of wisdom before we finish?
No, just I've enjoyed that immensely. Always love having Andy on, and it's good to get back into. No, I won't say that. But just obviously we've had the break, and it's nice to now it's going to be super hectic. The chip strategy kicks in. We'll have that every week. When some of us will have some chips left if they haven't wasted them really early. So I'm looking forward to it.
God, never going to live this one down, am I? Right, everyone, thank you very much, and we will see you again next week.